Hello there. Right, let's see if got my chat going. Can't tell if I've gone live yet or not. Let's just see. Ah, that looks promising. Showing up on my phone. Okay, got a couple of people. Just see if anything appears in the chat. Make sure everyone can hear me properly. I'll just put that on full screen. So basically, in my last stream, somebody said to me to do a one for... Oh, good, it sounds just fine. Good. Okay, let's go. Right, so basically, in my last tier list stream, someone said to do one for F1 racing games, and I thought, that sounds fun. And then I thought, well, actually, I haven't played a lot of the earlier F1 games, but I've played a lot of racing games in general. So then I thought, I'll just do all racing games I can think of and do a tier list for that. So this is probably the furthest I've deviated from Formula 1 so far, other than I think I did an F2 preview video a few years ago. So we've got... there are 49 games here, which are all the ones I could think of off the top of my head that I've owned or played substantially. So if there are any which aren't on here, it possibly means I've forgotten about them, but more likely it's because I've never played them or I haven't played them enough to make a fair assessment. So for example, I haven't played Gran Turismo 1, I've played Gran Turismo 2 once, I've played all the others after that except for 7, and I own Burnout Paradise, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, and Dirt 2, but I've played each of them only once, so they're not on here. So yeah, I've arranged these chronologically in order of release. So there's a couple at the beginning which might be a little bit obscure. And yeah, I'm just gonna talk about each of them and give my thoughts on what I think of them. So if I go, I'll get going now. So the first one, this is called Big Red Racing. And this was released in 1995 for MS-DOS. It's quite interesting, actually, because it's nearly 30 years old, and it's got surprisingly good graphics. And you can race, like, as well as cars, it has, like, diggers, speedboats, there's even, like, a Mars rover thing, and helicopters, and that. F122. I haven't played F122. I've been considering getting it, but people have said it's not brilliant. I've played all the other... I own all the other Codemasters F1 games before that, but no 22, unfortunately. I did consider F1 Manager as a racing game of sorts. I own that, but again, I've played it once, so I didn't put it on here either. So the most recent racing game is F1 2021. I've got... Hey Brooks, GT fanboy, although I mostly smashed the Sport Edition and the PSP one. Yeah, I had, most of my time was GT4, GT5, for me. But I never had GT Sport because I don't have a PS4 or a PS5. I converted to PC-ism in the past couple of years. Anyway, back to Big Red Racing. So this one, it's interesting because you can race helicopters and stuff, but the problem with it was that the AI had predetermined routes of what they could do, and so it means that, which they won't change from. So eventually, whenever you play as each type of car, I got to the point where I could memorize exactly what they would do and try and imitate it. So that was interesting, but it's quite a mad game, really. Like, I can't think of any other game I've had where you can drive as a digger, or even race helicopters. So you didn't ever play F1 2009? You should try it. Yeah, I mean, I don't own a Wii, so I've never played 2009. I've seen footage, and obviously it's got Wii graphics, and it's a bit arcadey. I've been told it's not brilliant, but it's one I could probably give a go. I mean, it's annoying because for F1 games there is a gap between Championship Edition and 2010. I really wish that we had games dedicated to the seasons in between. I just want to race those cars, to be honest. Okay, so Big Red Racing. That one, I mean, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if no one watching has played it, to be honest. It's very old and very obscure. And it gets anything pre-2004. So up till around here gets kind of bonus points for nostalgia as well. I think for me, I'll put Big Red Racing. I'll put it in the middle, maybe just a C, because it's a bit dated, but it's got some fun stuff going. So the next one, this is Network Q RAC Rally Championship. This is another game released for MS-DOS, and this was in 1995 or 96. This one, it's been a very, very long time since I played it, but I get it mixed up with Colin McRae Rally because they're obviously quite similar games. It's, I remember I had a joystick for my PC at the time, which somehow was kind of calibrated for driving. So I was sat there with this joystick going forwards like this, as if I'm driving a plane trying to drive a rally car. But it was okay. It was standard rally thing, but it's difficult. It's difficult to distinguish it, to be honest, from Colin McRae Rally. So that one, maybe that'll go. I think I'll put that one in D tier. Let's see. Should put it S tier. Yeah. You didn't play AC or ACC. What's Assetto Corsa? I'm assuming you're referring to Assetto Corsa. I've got Assetto Corsa on here, which I play sometimes. I don't, because I can't really use it properly because I don't have a sim rig, and it's designed to be played with a steering wheel. And I'm used to like using the controllers. I use a controller, but I use like the X and Y button or the X and square, and it doesn't let you do that. So it has, I don't see an S class. Sorry, I'll scroll up there. S tier is there. Sorry, that's me scrolling down. Yeah, so it's tricky. I've downloaded some of the mods that give you all the extra Porsche cars, and it's fun because you can. It's the first game I've had where you can actually choose your opponents, which is something I've always wanted from like Gran Turismo, for example. If GT4 or GT5, you could select your opponents in arcade mode, it would be just the best game ever, pretty much. When is part 2 of the Iceberg video coming out? That will. I've been working on that one a little bit. I'm starting to get it together in terms of actually choosing what I'm putting, because people gave me loads of suggestions of stuff. I might get working on it properly after the next video's done. But that one I'm starting planning certainly what things I'm choosing and what tier I'm going to put them in. So that one it's in kind of early development, the Iceberg video. Okay, back to this. So this one is called Final Racing. Again, quite old MS-DOS. It's a weird one because it has this sort of like Blade Runner cyberpunk kind of thing. It's like futuristic flying car stuff. And yeah, it was good fun. It was just a bit odd to I think, because it was all fictional cars and everything. But again, it's not one, I haven't played it since I was probably 10 or 11 years old. So I think, yeah, it's one of the most standout ones because it's based like, because most of these are simulators or they're using real cars, and this is entirely fictional in terms of the cars and the location and everything, and very sci-fi. But it's one I could, yeah, it's very hard to find information on it because it's quite an obscure game. But I'll put that, maybe I'll put that in C along with Big Red Racing. Okay, next up is Screamer Rally. Now this is a good game. This is amazing. I played this so much as a kid, and it's like, it's rally, but it's not time trials. You do like racing, but on like rally, off-road rally circuits. And there were only like 6 cars, which they gave these random names to, even though you could tell that there was like a Peugeot 205, a Renault Megane, a Ford Escort, but again, maybe for licensing, they had to give them different names or whatever. But yeah, it was just a lot of fun, and it had these really cool circuits. Like there was one, there was like China, Arizona, Italy, Wales, and it had a bit of damage going, and the physics of it were good, and I thought it was just brilliant. I mean, whenever I played it, for some reason the sound didn't work, so I had music, but I never had the car sounds. And then I found a copy of it, which I was able to use to download and play during lockdown, so I had car sounds, and that was a bit weird. But But Screamer Rally, it's got serious like nostalgia vibes for me. So this is one that I would put. I think I'm going to put it in A tier, just for me. Right, now we're going to get to ones where hopefully people will recognise them a bit more. And these are a bit less obscure now. So TOCA Touring Car Championship. This one I didn't play. I haven't played this nearly as much as its sequel. And as a kid, I just found it really, really hard. I find that with a lot of games, particularly racing games, often the AI and the opponents tended to be much harder, and the sequels it gets progressively easier. Or it could just be me getting older and getting better at them. But it has, it's quite obviously it's very simple. It's the same basic game as TOCA 2. Doesn't have quite the same immersion, the same graphics. I just remember really struggling to. I was always qualifying and finishing last in it. But I thought it was good fun, to be honest. Even so, and it's even though I don't watch a huge amount of touring cars, but I have an appreciation for 90s touring cars as well, because I learned a lot about it from playing this and from its sequel. So TOCA 2, the TOCA Touring Car Championship, even the first one, I think that one I could go probably C tier might be a good, or possibly B. I think C tier. I think this one, because I struggled to get to grips with it a lot. Okay, Colin McRae Rally. This is the only one I've actually played properly from that franchise. I played the second one a little bit, but not very much. This one, I remember it had really, really weird damage physics, because there's like a Volkswagen Golf that you can drive in it. And I can't remember if it's at every course that you take, or there's one where after a few corners, the car just looks like a crumpled piece of paper. And I used to just do it just because it was funny, and I loved just smashing a car up, and it would keep going in that. This and TOCA 2 are S tier for the nostalgia. Yeah, I think TOCA 2 we're about to get to that one, so I'll have plenty to say about that. But yeah, so Colin McRae Rally, that was mostly just the fun, because when I was a kid, I just wanted to like smash the cars up and stuff. But I think certainly better than Network Q RAC Rally. I think I could put it. It was good fun, I think, yeah, and I've always enjoyed. I don't play them nearly as much, but I've always had a thing for rally games, certainly. So I could put Colin McRae Rally. That'll go in B tier. Right, TOCA World Touring Cars. Okay, not to exaggerate, but this might be the best racing game ever. It just has. I think this was the first racing game I played. And it has so much nostalgia, and like the menu music and everything, and the circuit, because the cars are good, the circuits are great, and it just captures the essence of touring car racing for me. And I loved the bonus tracks. It was Loch Rannoch, the one going around the lake. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. Hello from Argentina. Hello, Adrian. Welcome. So yeah, TOCA, I think it's going to go in S, but yeah, there's so much to cover with this one, because you had the Ford Fiestas, and there was the Van Diemen Formula Fords, and that. Going back to it now, because I played it again recently, the driving physics are actually really bad, which I used to be able to adjust to, maybe, but now the cars have so much oversteer. Like, it's very, very easy it's surprisingly easy to spin off, actually. But otherwise, it's good, and the only issue I had was that in career mode, if you didn't score X amount of points by a certain stage, you were then eliminated from the championship, which obviously doesn't happen in real life. And it's like, well, that's not really fair when you're in. I mean, the cars are all more or less as fast as each other, but it's like Peugeot was always the slowest, and then Renault were the fastest. And it's like, well, if you're in a Peugeot, you can't be. I mean, you can set it to easy and you can win races, but it's not really fair to expect that. But yeah, also for the time, because it had damage, and it had dynamic weather, which is again very, very advanced when this came out in 98 or 99, something like that. So TOCA 2 touring cars, that's going to go in S tier for me. Okay, something completely different. Crash Team Racing. Ooh. Well, my phone's fallen down. So Crash Team Racing is obviously completely different from the rest of these. I've only played Mario Kart like once, so I wasn't going to talk about that. Crash Team Racing, I pumped in a lot of time on this, and I got quite good at it because you have to hold the controls at a really odd angle. Like, you have to have your hand kind of looking. It looks like I'm giving a middle finger to the camera, kind of like this over the controller, so you can hit the shoulder, you can hit the circle and to use the weapons, and then there's the trigger to make it jump as well, and to over the jumps, and so it's very fiddly. But obviously it's great because it obviously has these wacky circuits, and there's the whole you're using weapons and that. It's just a good load of fun, to be honest. I'm trying to remember if I ever actually completed it. I don't remember if I defeated it'll come to his name will come to me. There's the main bad guy is this alien that's decided to come down to Earth, and he wants to test all the best racers, and if they don't beat him, he's going to turn it into the Earth into a concrete parking lot or something. Mario Kart only once. I'm in shock. Yeah, I've only played it. Well, the thing is, I've never owned any Nintendos. I've been PlayStation my entire life, so I've had a PS1, PS2, and a PS3. Haven't had a PS4 or PS5. Might get a PS5 just for GT7. But yeah, I've never owned an Xbox or Nintendo or anything like that. Mostly because I've always wanted to have access to Gran Turismo, and you can't get it off of them. But yeah, I've started doing, because I have a gaming laptop. I've been mostly just doing PC gaming in the past few years. So my PS3 is like 15 years old, and that. So yeah, I don't really touch it. I hardly ever play it anymore, to be honest. But yeah, Crash Team Racing is just it's a great laugh. And yeah, obviously it's gonna. I mean, Mario Kart is everyone loves it for a reason, and Crash Team Racing is the same basic idea. So I'll give I think Crash Team Racing, that can go in S tier, I think. Okay, NASCAR Racing 3. So NASCAR this one, it was a bit. I played this a lot, but mostly just to like. Mostly for like crashes and stuff, because you can cause massive pile-ups. Because I was always a bit puzzled about how to actually get a race going, because there used to be the menu, you could start and do practice and just go out on your own and that. And so I don't remember doing much on the actual career mode side and that, but it was just, yeah, it had like good graphics and it was good crash physics. And to be honest, from a NASCAR game, that's what you want, really. I mean, obviously Gran Turismo 5 and 6 have NASCAR in them. And that's gives you an idea of what it's like, and it's a funny sport, NASCAR, to be honest, because whoever's leading is by default the slowest person, because you get the slipstream and that. And obviously GT5 making B-Spec compulsory, I couldn't stand that, because good luck to you trying to win NASCAR races in B-Spec, because you have basically no control over it. Yeah, NASCAR Racing 3, never played 2 or 1, or if there was a 4th, I don't know about it, never played that. But yeah, I mostly used it just to have a bit of fun and do some crashes and that. So I think NASCAR, yeah, I'll put that in D tier. Okay. Need for Speed Road Challenge. So if you live in North America, you'll know this as Need for Speed High Stakes. And this one, because I've done obviously a lot of Need for Speed, this is the first one. It's got a fairly good selection of cars. There's a mixture of things. I mean, you start out with things like the BMW Z3, and there's a Mercedes SLK 230, and then it has like a Ferrari Enzo, I think, and Lamborghinis and stuff. And so it goes up from sports cars up to like high-end supercars and that. I don't remember much. I can't remember if it had, because Hot Pursuit obviously had police chases in it, and I don't really remember if this one did, but I remember racing on it, and it just being a good laugh. There was one circuit, or one track, I think it was the Ancient Ruins one or something, that had, the roads were really dusty, and it kicked up the most insane amount of smoke, and you just couldn't see dust, and you just couldn't see a thing. Which is annoying, but yeah, a good classic game, Road Challenge. not brilliant, not terrible. So maybe I'll give that one, put that in C. Okay, so first Formula 1 game, F1 World Grand Prix. This one had eerily... I'm probably thinking, because at the time I thought it had the most insane graphics. They probably look absolutely awful if I went back to it now. But this one is covering the 99 season, or the 98 or the 99 season in F1. I remember it had these really creepy, like, pit stop, like, mechanics. Like, they had, like, it had quite good detail. It had actual people and stuff showing the pit stops, and it just looked a bit creepy, I remember. But it was good. Like, otherwise, it had good gameplay, and there was, like, damage and everything, and so it wasn't... I think it was better than, from what I've seen of some of the ones, like the EA games at that time. And that, I remember that it came in, for some reason, it was I had it on PC, and it had, because obviously PC games at that era, it was just a small square case, but then it had this enormous cardboard box that it came in that had like instructions and stuff, and I don't know why I had all of that, to be honest. It's probably one that I could go back to. Is iRacing on this list? No. Again, I've played I have iRacing in that I've downloaded it on Steam, but again, I've only tried it once because it's designed for when you need the monthly subscription, and again, it's designed for sim racing, and I don't have a steering wheel. Burnout 3 is on here. They were going, yeah, Burnout 3 is just there. Obviously, this is chronological, so we'll get there at some point. We're still in the 90s at the moment. Yeah, iRacing. I think that's one that you need. I think you need to, like, the base model is missing a lot of cars. I remember driving the 2012 Marussia, and I thought I'd give that a go, but because it's designed for steering wheel, it doesn't work on a controller, so I didn't bother with iRacing. Yeah, this isn't Jimmy Broadbent levels of gaming commentary. Assetto Corsa's on here, so yeah, where is it? Yeah, Assetto Corsa's here, so we'll get to that one eventually. F1 World Grand Prix is 98 for Dreamcast in Game Boy, 99 for PC. See, I had the 99, the 99 one. Don't fall into the iRacing trap. Massive scam despite good racing. Yeah, the monthly subscription doesn't do it for me. I mean, if I was going to get into hardcore sim racing, maybe I'd consider. I don't know, to be honest. Hello, how are you, Peter? I'm very well, Andre. Thank you for tuning in. World Grand Prix, this, yeah, again, it's one I struggle to remember. I think because it was, for the time, it was quite immersive, so I'll put that in B tier, I think. Marussia's R Factor 2. Maybe it is R... maybe... Oh, it's not iRacing I've got, it's R Factor. Thank you, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, it's R Factor 2, which I've only played a little bit of. So no, I haven't touched iRacing at all. Yeah, that would make sense, because obviously you do have the monthly subscription. Right, Midtown Madness 2. So this one is not a racing game, it's more of just a driving simulator. And so the idea is that you have two cities, you've got San Francisco and London, and you just drive around just smashing things up, to be honest. I mean, there is one, like, career mode in the San Francisco when you're having to do stunts and that. But you don't do... I don't remember doing, like, street races. I just remember that it has loads of... It's quite large. It's a whole city. It's like GTA. And there's loads of traffic, and you can just smash into cars and cause pile-ups and knock down street lights and all of that. And you can drive quite a mixture of sports cars and supercars and everything else. And that was just quite good fun, to be honest. It was a PC game. Released in 2000. And... you could even, like, in London, you could even go down and drive on the underground, and that was really cool, I thought. So yeah, that was Midtown Madness is just, it's not a racing game, but it's a driving simulator, and it's a good laugh, that one, if you just want to smash things up, to be honest. Can you do more icebergs in the future? Yep. So obviously the second one is sort of on the way, and then I've been given more than enough suggestions to do ones after that, but yeah, the second iceberg will come in due course, certainly. Midtown Madness, I'm going to put this in A tier just because it's such a laugh. I think that one's a lot of fun. Okay, so another Need for Speed game. So the Need for Speed Porsche 2000. Again, in America, this is Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed. I've possibly played this more than any other game on this list, other than maybe Gran Turismo 4. So this game basically fueled a lifelong obsession I've had with Porsches, because it's got something like 85 different Porsches going all the way from 1950 up to 2000. And again, it's all street racing. Most of the circuits are linear, but there are 5 different configurations on Monaco, although none of them are the original Monaco circuit, which is very odd. And it's at night, so you're driving around the streets of Monaco at night. But it has really good driving physics, and it has really good and the graphics as well for a game that's 20 years old are really, really good. And the cars are fully customizable, and everything else, and it just is really, really good. Which past seasons do you recommend rewatching, or already watched 2008 to 12? I mean, 2005 is obviously a good year. That was the Schumacher years. There's not so many brilliant races in that time. 98 and 99 are good, just because they got the Schumacher Hakkinen rivalry, certainly. 1986 as well is another good year for the height of the turbo era, and the big four of Prost, Mansell, Senna, and Piquet. Yeah, those are the main ones. Obviously, the more recent ones, obviously, yeah, we've all seen those. And yeah, 2012 is my favourite season of F1, certainly. I hope you played Wreckfest, since it's pretty good racing. I never played Wreckfest, unfortunately. I played stuff, well, off the basis of the name. There's a couple of things on here which are similar to that, certainly. But yeah, back to Need for Speed Porsche 2000. So yeah, this one really, really high detail, really good driving physics, really good graphics. A great game if you're into your Porsches. That's a great game to have. And so for me, because I played it to death, and really enjoyed it, I'm putting it in S tier. Okay, TOCA World Touring Cars. This again is another amazing one. So this is the sequel to TOCA 2 Touring Cars, but it covers touring car championships in, well, everywhere, to be honest. It does Asia, Europe, North America, South America, Australia, and so it's got so many amazing circuits. This I played this before I was really into F1, and it introduced me to most of the world's major circuits. Before I played this, I'd never heard of things like Bathurst or Mexico City or Dijon-Prenois or the Hockenheim Ring, places like that, because I only knew the British circuits, to be honest, from playing TOCA. And it has like the sports cars and the supercars. It's another one that's just immense, because it covers, I mean, a lot of the cars are the same, but just with different liveries, because they're racing in different continents. But it just ticks all the right boxes, TOCA World Touring Cars. And so for me, I think that one can go... It's such a big scope for a PlayStation game. It cost me £30 when I bought this, which is ridiculous for a PS1 game. So TOCA World Touring Cars, that's going to go in S tier. Will Aston Martin win a race this year? Off the basis of Bahrain, I think it's definitely possible. I mean, they seem to be as fast, if not faster, than both Ferrari and... well, definitely Mercedes, possibly Ferrari. Red Bull, I mean, to be honest, we're in a position where if without any mechanical problems, Red Bull probably could win every race this year, unless people close up. But it's only been one race. But yeah, Aston Martin in a really good position. And to be honest, with Alonso at the wheel, there's no one better. If they want to win a race, he'll get it done, definitely. 85 Porsches all look the same. Yeah, to be fair, in that game, a lot of them, because it has all of the 356 cars, so A, B, and C, the A and B versions, and about half of the cars in it are just the 356s, because it goes through the coupe, cabriolet, and then all the different engine sizes. And it's like, these are all the same car, to be honest. Okay, so the next game is Formula 1 2001. So PS2 game. I hadn't realized as a kid that there were actually two different franchises, because there's the EA version and then there's the other version, which is this one of just relieving F1 games every year. This one, I just remember it because they weren't the best. Like the PS2 F1 games, the graphics were not brilliant, and the driving physics were really really odd. Like with this one, I just could not get to grips with the driving. That they fell into that trap, and Codemasters are doing this as well now, is that they release a new game each year, and it's basically the same game but just with updated cars and drivers. Yeah, I'm not hugely impressed by F1 2001, Formula 1 2001 even. So I think with that one, to be honest, it's not an F, definitely. I think a D or an E. I think I'll be nice and put it in D. Because yeah, it's just it hasn't really aged enormously well, that one. Okay, now one of the big boys, Gran Turismo 3. So this gets full marks for nostalgia. It's again pumped a lot of time into this one, but it was obviously, compared to GT4, it's very very small scale, because I think they were still testing the kind of hardware capabilities of the PS2, and it has there were about 200 cars, only going back to the 1980s, so quite a very very small selection of cars. And again, the tracks, they hadn't introduced, there were only one or two real circuits on it. The rest of it was all the fictional ones, like Midfield Raceway and Apricot Hill and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I think it still should go in S, because it still looks so. It still looks really good, to be honest. Like the graphics, obviously, the GT Gran Turismo games always have top tier graphics, to be honest. And this one, it still looks reasonably good 20 years on. Trying to play it again more recently, I need to readjust to the physics, because the cars have the most insane oversteer, which I'd obviously just got used to. Because I watched when Jimmy Broadbent was doing his streams trying to get S grades in all of the license tests, and I was like, this is impossible. And he was really struggling with it as well. And it had like the endurance. There's a couple of endurance races, but it paved the way for the next generation of Gran Turismo games. But obviously, it was improved in basically every way by Gran Turismo 4. Yeah, so for what it did for racing games, I think Gran Turismo 3, that's an S. I'd certainly. Okay, The Simpsons Road Rage. So this is nothing like the others. I love The Simpsons as a TV show, if you exclude everything past about season 12. And yeah, so this one, the idea with this one is that basically you're like a taxi service. So you're driving around Springfield, and you have to pick people up and take them to X location within a certain time limit. And if you get there quickly, you get money, and then you can use that money to buy new cars and characters to drive, and new maps at different parts of the city. A lot of people don't like this one. I thought it was all right, to be honest. It was just good fun, because it's quite a nice. The maps are quite cool, and any Simpsons stuff is quite good. But obviously, it's not a racing game. It's not simulation. It's just driving. And that. So I think, yeah, it's quite similar to Midtown Madness in many ways. So Simpsons Road Rage, I think maybe just B is a good place for that. Simpsons Road Rage and Hit and Run are staples of the Gen Z childhood. They are indeed. Else Hit and Run's on this list, but Hit and Run is actually being it's been remastered by someone, like unofficially. They've got access to the coding, and they've merged all the maps together into one big one and improved the graphics. And so if that gets released, that could be fun. But if they did an official remastering of Hit and Run, I'd be all over that. Okay, so the next up is Gran Turismo Concept 2002 Tokyo to Geneva. So this is actually the first Gran Turismo game I played. It's I don't really know what to say about this one, because it's very very small scale. There were like 3 or 4 circuits and probably 20 to 30 cars, all like kind of mid-range, like Honda NSX, Toyota Supra, that kind of thing. It wasn't designed as a full game. It was a sort of, well, it was to show off I think it was like a lot of concept cars at like the Tokyo-Geneva convention in 2002 or something, and so it was just a showcase for that. So it's not. I don't even think you can do proper races. There was no career mode, certainly. It's not really a full game in the same way as the other Gran Turismo ones are. Gran Turismo Concept. So it's GT. It's like playing one of the prologue games, I guess, because it just doesn't feel like a complete game. I'd put that probably in D tier. I think Gran Turismo Concept. Okay, Crash Nitro Kart. This one, again, it's the same basic idea as Crash Team Racing, but just on PS2. It just didn't quite land in the same way. It had all the same features, and it was the same basic idea of, you know, arcade racing using weapons on your opponents, blah blah blah. But it just didn't land in really the same way. And consequently, I didn't play it that much really when I had it. So it could just be I think maybe just maybe a C tier for that, something like that. Okay, so Ford Racing 2. This is fun. I mean, I do like games where it's like a one manufacturer thing, because then you get a lot of cars you wouldn't get elsewhere. And I remember this one because it's all street circuits and off road, and you could drive like the original Ford F-150 from like 1950, and a couple of the older Ford cars, and so it covers quite a lot, and it was just good fun. It was good graphics. You know, the circuits were all good load of cars. I see Need for Speed Pro Street is not on the list. Where would you put it? Pro Street, I think I played the demo of that when I got my PS3. I downloaded the demo, but I didn't touch it much. It seems to be quite popular, but like I don't really know, to be honest. For me, like the later Need for Speed, I think Need for Speed peaked with Most Wanted and then just kind of went down after that. And I just didn't hit me in the same way. So I've only played Pro Street once or twice, and a very long time ago as well. We got our first suggestion, tier suggestion, B tier. I think, yeah, B for Ford Racing, Need for Speed The Run. No, I don't have that one. The most recent, the most recent Need for Speed game on here is Need for Speed Carbon. So I said at the beginning of the stream, I own Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, the PS3 version, but I've played it only once, so I thought I can't make much of an assessment, but I don't own any of the more recent ones than that. Most of my gaming history is like 20 years ago, a lot of these games. Ford Racing 2, I'm thinking B or A. I'm going to be generous and put Ford Racing 2 in A. Can you add Formula Apex to the list? I've never actually heard of that, Formula Apex. Are any of the PC Cars games? It's a Roblox game. Oh, okay. I know what Roblox is. I've never played that, but no, I've never played Formula Apex. PC Cars. No, none of them. GT4 F1 Championship in 2030. Already hear the the goat meme. So now, okay, so for Need for Speed Underground, so we've hit like 2004. This is kind of the next generation of games. This is when I got my PS2 because I bought Need for Speed Underground with it. And now, so Need for Speed Underground, it's the first like import tuner game that they did, where you can chav up the cars, as we'd say in Britain, and put wings and spoilers and decals and blah 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 on them and do street racing. And yeah, Need for Speed Underground, again, really for the time, it had amazing graphics, but you're all limited to just there's no open world element to it, which the later games have, which is a bit of a shame. Have you heard about Roblox driving Empire controversy? No, I haven't heard anything about that. So I know, I know what Roblox is. I've never played it though, but I don't know about that, unfortunately. Um, so Need for Speed Underground, again, a good car. You start out, it was the beginning. It was like what, Volkswagen Golf, Dodge Neon, and then the last car is the Nissan Skyline R34. So kind of mid-range sports cars, but yeah, you can just have fun modding them up and everything. But there's the lack of the open world element is a bit of a shame. But it had the drifting mode, and the drag race stuff was cool because you have the lanes you have to switch and dodge the traffic. But yeah, this kind of ran in tandem. It started this obsession with the like import tuner street racing games, which I loved as a teenager certainly. Underground, I'll put that in A, I think. Okay. So the next up is the Simpsons Hit and Run. So now you might be thinking, why have you got that there but not any of the GTA games? And so the reason for that is because with GTA, obviously driving is a big part of it, but obviously a lot of it is just open world exploration, and there's a lot of stuff that you can do on foot, and particularly with the missions, and it has like a heavy combat element, whereas the Simpsons Hit and Run, every mission involves driving in some way. Like you literally can't complete them on foot. And there are races that you can do as part of the missions, and there is as away from the story mode, there is a separate racing mode. But yeah, Simpsons Hit and Run is just an amazing game. It is just the Simpsons take on Grand Theft Auto. But so much fun. Such good missions, the maps and everything. It's just, yeah, and the music is amazing as well. Because this is interesting. This is a bit of an aside. When I was because I've got 2 music degrees. And when I was doing my master's degree, I actually set up an orchestra that played video game music, and we played music from Simpsons Hit and Run. And I got to orchestrate all of it myself and do all of that, and that was a lot of fun. So Simpsons Hit and Run that's an S tier for me. You know, even though it's not remotely anywhere near being a simulation game at all. Forza Horizon, no, I've played the original Forza, because again those are Xbox games. I played the original Forza like once or twice, but not very much. And my impression of it is that it's very similar to Gran Turismo. But yeah, I haven't played the Forza ones. Actually, all of the last 6 or 7 games are just the F1 games on here chronologically. Burnout 3. Okay, well, I'm going to put this in S tier immediately, but that is just it does everything right. Oh yeah, the best soundtrack is it has all of them things like bands like Sugar Cult. I remember that being in it. And obviously it has that like kind of early 2000s like garage stoner alternative rock thing going on. And that's so it but Burnout 3, obviously good graphic, it's just fun because again the idea is you crash into everyone, and I loved the mode where you can do like the pile-ups, where you have to, there's like a roadblock and you have to crash into it and blow up as much stuff as you can. That was great. Simpsons Hit Run is a GTA style game. It does have a racing minigame. It's a really racing game. I'm expanding the definition because so this is a mixture of, it's both racing and driving games in here. Because for example, like Midtown Madness 2 is not a racing game, but it has driving, and so I put that in because of that. And yeah, obviously it's GTA style, but because I thought the GTA games, the driving part is not so critical as it is with Hit and Run. So that was kind of my logic behind not having GTA involved, but putting Hit and Run in. But yeah, Burnout, best ever, best soundtrack. The tracks, they're all street circuits. They're all just a load of fun. It's just mental, and it just does everything properly. Burnout. So another mental game, Driven to Destruction. If you ever needed a game to play at sleepovers, this got you sorted. So this was based on like the kind of American like bumper car what are they called? Not like funny cars, but you know when people have those old bangers that are missing the doors and windows and they drive dirt tracks and smash into each other. That's basically what Driven to Destruction was. But my god, it was fun because you had things like there was like the figure eight jump race. So it's like a figure of eight circuit, and there's a jump. There are ramps, and so you meet, and if someone's crossing, then you'll just come together like this in midair. And that kind of thing. And there are ones where you start at two ends of this field and you go, there's a ramp in the middle and you have to get to the other side without hitting anyone else before. It's just so good. Demolition derbies. I haven't played any of like the demolition or destruction derbies, but obviously Driven to demolition. That's what you mean. Yeah, of course. There are other games called those, but yeah, demolition derby is what Driven to Destruction is about. And it does it really well. So you had like the figure eight jump race just smashing into each other, and then we have like a trailer attached to the back of it and stuff. It's totally mental, and it is just bags of fun. And again, if you like the band Thrice, because the whole artist in the ambulance is part of the soundtrack for this one. Driven to Destruction, I'd give that an S myself. Do you think Aston Martin could be the best of the rest this year? I don't think so, to be honest. They're not faster than Ferrari. If Ferrari finish higher tier needed for higher tier needed for hit and run. Yes, like if I could put another one even higher, I'll put that up even more. What was I saying? Aston Martin. If they beat Ferrari, it will be on reliability grounds, I think, unless they bring some upgrades that make the car even better. Because at the moment, they're fast enough to beat Mercedes, but not Ferrari, and definitely not Red Bull. I don't think. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Again, I've barely touched Mario Kart. I've played Crash Team Racing as a kid. Again, never had a Nintendo or anything. There are a lot of games. I'm realizing, obviously, there are a lot of games I've never played, but because I've never had Xbox or Nintendo and stuff like that. Okay, Gran Turismo 4. GT4 is GT3 but better. I probably put 1,000+ hours in that game as a kid. Yeah, I think so too. I think GT4, I've played this more than any other game. And this is despite the fact that my PS2 really could not handle it. It took several attempts to actually get it to read the disc and that. And so, but even so, I was just blown away by how many cars it had, how many circuits it had. It introduced me to so many. Again, I didn't know about the Nürburgring before. I knew what Le Mans was, but I didn't know about the Circuit de la Sarthe and that. And so many cars I'd never heard of, and I didn't know much about like Group B and Group C, and it introduced me to that. And kudos for them for doing actually 24-hour endurance races, even if the only way you could realistically do it was to run it in B-Spec and just have it running overnight while you slept. Yeah, that one. My thoughts exactly. It was life-changing. It was, yeah. It raised the bar so high, and I don't think the later GT games haven't touched it, even with the improvements in graphics and everything else. Obviously, it was limited in that there is no damage model, and you could only have 6 cars per race, which was rectified in the later games. But it did everything right. And there are tracks in there which haven't appeared later. I mean, there's there are the two rally street circuits. I forget isn't one of them like Costa del Sol or something, and there's another one which I don't think have appeared in the later ones. I miss those ones. The ones on the really, really narrow streets. Those were fun. Yeah, GT4, and obviously it has like the Mercedes-Benz patent Motorwagen. Paris and Amalfi. Yeah, Amalfi costed Amalfi. Yeah, Paris wasn't in it, was it? There were 2 in Paris. There was one around. There was another the one around the Eiffel Tower was another, and there's a second one. But yeah, no Grand Prix 4. No, I'm afraid not. That's another one I've not played. I'm beginning to realise, despite there being 49 games on this list, there are a lot I've never touched. Okay, so yeah, GT4 is an S. The next Gran Turismo should allow you to do a full grid length 24 hours Le Mans with the amount of hypercar entries. Yeah, GT4, I remember trying to sort of... I tried to imagine if you could do a full grid, including all the like GT cars and LMP2 below that are in the game, and I would drive them and get approximate lap times, and from that I would then work out how after 24 hours where they would have finished, because you could only do 6 cars per race. Yeah, so WEC needs a game. It does need a game. That's one thing that's never happened, and I think we should get one, a WEC game. Jeff Grammond made the best F1 simulators. Codemasters is very arcade. I know the name. I don't know where from, but it rings a bell. I don't know if those simulators are old or new or whatever, but I recognise the name, certainly. Okay, Need for Speed Underground 2. So this obviously just improves upon Underground in that now it has the open world element to it. So there's a city that you drive around and you find races, but it's all at night. The sun never rises in whatever city it's in. And again, it's a better range of cars because it goes up. I mean, it had things like the Cadillac Escalade and the Lincoln Navigator, so that was really cool. I thought having SUVs, that they improved upon the amount of the modding that you could do was better than Underground 1. I'm trying to think of the high end. I think at the very the top tier cars there was the Skyline, the Lancer Evo 8, and then the Subaru Impreza. I think those were like the big 3. Have you played either of the crew games? No, I haven't played those, unfortunately. Midnight Club. I've been told good things about the Midnight Club. Those ones I haven't touched, but yeah, I've been told that those are good. Definitely. Okay, so I put Underground in A. I'll put Underground 2 in S, I think. I really like your ranking every driver cars in the era series. Could you do the rank every car in the 80s? Okay, so the next one in that series will be ranking every 90s car. I don't know when that's going to happen, because that's going to be another monumental video, because I think the number of different cars in the 90s is close to 200, because in the first few years of it, there were so many, horrid teams like Coloni and Eurobrune and Andrea Moda that meant the grid was much bigger, and they would have one car for one race, and then they'd bring a new one for the next one, and blah, blah, blah. So that one will come eventually, and then after that I'll do the 80s drivers, and then the 80s cars, and then eventually, if there's demand, I'll do the 70s, the 60s, and the 50s. May as well just do every decade. But those videos take a long time to make because they're so massive, but they'll come out in time, certainly. Disney Cars games, nope, never touched those. Unfortunately. Okay, so now we've got TOCA Race Driver 2. So I had this on PS2. I get the feeling, unless it was the third one, I had it on PSP as well. And I remember because it was sat in the living room for years because I was really struggling to sell it years after I'd sold my PSP. So this one, again, obviously same basic idea as TOCA World Touring Cars. Little Big Planet karting. Nope, never not played that. Haven't touched Little Big Planet. There are a lot of games I haven't played, now that I think about it. A lot of racing games. Okay, TOCA Race Driver 2. So, yeah, same basic idea as TOCA 2 Touring Cars and that, but it doesn't have the same charm. Like, obviously, more modern games are better graphics, better physics. The more modern cars, like early 2000s touring cars. It was just kind of okay, I guess I'd say. I'd put this... Yeah, I haven't touched it in a long time because I just... Yeah, and it has, a few other things. I'll put this in C, because I put the original TOCA Touring Car TOCA Touring Car Championship there as well. Okay, Juiced. So I had this game, and then I think about 2 weeks later, I gave it back to the shop because I was like, I just don't like this. It's just a cheap version of Need for Speed Underground. It's the same basic, street racing import tuner idea, but it just didn't. I don't remember. I don't remember a huge amount about it because I didn't have it for very long. I just remember not liking it, and obviously not liking it enough to want a refund. And again, the reviews for it were not brilliant either. On that basis, maybe it should just go in F. If it was bad enough for me to sell it, maybe it should. And we need something down there because I'm giving some very. Most of these games are ranked very highly. I dare you to read this. Okay. I have so many hours on Juiced Eliminator on PSP. Loved that game. Yeah, I had... Because I had a PSP. I only had 1 or 2 games on it. Gentleman, a short back to the past. Oh, yeah. 30 years ago, Niki Lauda said... So, Niki... Yeah, PSP. I had a PSP. I didn't really use it much for games. I mostly used it for internet access because this is before like smartphones and stuff. But I had TOCA Race Driver 2 or 3, one of those. I had Ratchet and Clank, and then I had like Tekken Dark Resurrection, and that was pretty much it. But I still don't know where that reporter was from. I think I've forgotten his name. Someone mentioned it in a comment yesterday on one of my videos. I think he's German. Begins with W, his name. But yeah, he's known. He's known for his long-winded questions, definitely. Okay, Need for Speed Most Wanted. Okay, this is an S game. Just again, it's Need for Speed Underground 2, but better. So it has the same open world again, import tuner street racer, open world this time, but it has police chases, which they hadn't done since Hot Pursuit, and it just has. They're so much fun, and they can go on for absolutely ages, particularly in the earlier levels when they're not like it's only like little squad cars going after you. Again, bigger range of cars because you start with like I remember I liked the Renault Clio V6 because it already looked modded because it had that body kit, and then at the end you got like the Porsche Carrera GT, the Lamborghini Murcielago. And because it had the story mode, I remember I was obsessed with the idea of the Blacklist 15, and I memorized what their bounty levels were and that. And you have to challenge them, and then if you beat them, you might win their cars and that. But yeah, it had good graphics. The map was gigantic for a game. It was almost as big as like some of the GTA maps. And it had a weird filter on it, so it looked a bit odd, but great graphics, no damage, but good, just great arcade. It just did everything right, to be honest. A properly good game. They really did good with this one. Again, good soundtrack. Most Wanted. So that was an easy S. Okay, so now we've hit 2006, and this is the next generation of games. So we've hit the PS3 era. So F1 Championship Edition. I'm tempted to say this is the best F1 game ever made. This game actually helped get me into Formula 1 because I bought a PS3 in 2007, and before that, obviously as we see, I love cars and motoring, but didn't give Formula 1 much attention. Because I was more interested in road cars and homologation race cars. And again, I've always been more into the cars than the racing and the drivers. Ranking every racing game of the 2010s. Well, there's quite a few there that I won't have played, but I'd need to research every other. I don't know how many that would even be made, to be honest. I found hardest game I've ever played. I found the PS3 controller so difficult to race when I came back to it recently. Yeah, I come back to it every once in a while, and I do actually struggle because it's got very strange physics. The cars are sort of glued to the track with very, very sensitive steering. They don't spin at all. The main issue with this game is the AI, because they act like you're not there. Like you have to be extremely careful when you're either lapping them or when they're exiting the pits, because they will just drive into you. And there are no flashbacks. So if you lose a wheel or crash, that's it, you're out, which actually is really good, because not having that option increases the immersion so much better, because it means that, like, when you crash, there's nothing, that's it, you're gone. Champions had a career mode, or was it a full 2006 edition campaign? There was a career mode. You started out either with Super Aguri, Midland, or Toro Rosso, and then if you impressed enough, you got to the higher teams. You could even just be a test driver. Could you do an episode on Henri Toivonen? I know I could. Obviously, that's not Formula One, but I don't know. My rallying knowledge is very, very sketchy. I'd have to do a lot of research on that. But yeah, I could. Eventually, I will need to expand into more to do with cars and motoring, I think, because eventually I am just going to run out. Run out of ideas with F1. So yeah, something on rallying I could do. Have you played the Formula E official game? I have not. I didn't know there was one. That sounds fun. I should get that. So yeah, F1 Championship Edition. Just so when I played it, so I got the demo on PS3 in 2007. And I was like, the graphics are amazing. The sensation and the sensation of movement is really good. And it had all the same on-screen graphics that you got on the ITV coverage at the time. And I was like, I feel like I'm in an actual race here. And then again, this was the same year that Lewis Hamilton joined, and so that was getting a lot more interest. And so I just really, really got into this. And I was playing it during lockdown. I started playing it again, and I was really, really getting into it again. The AI are interesting because there are some circuits where they are so desperately slow. Like Magny-Cours, for example, you can lap the entire field by the end of the race. But then Silverstone and Hockenheim, they are just impossibly fast. And no matter what you do, like Silverstone, I love driving on there, but I remember I've done races as like Super Aguri, and you can't, if you're not doing perfect quali lap after quali lap, you will not be able to keep up with them. You just won't. 2002, 2004, I haven't played those. I played F1 2001, but not 2 or 4, unfortunately. The slight bit of wheel spin, you turn into... Yeah, it had a weird thing if you turn... Because the spinning physics, I remember, maybe because I had the anti-correction, spin correction on. That was a bit odd. But yeah, it had the immersion. But yeah, going back to it, it's the AI which are a bit dated. I could talk about this game for forever. And that... Oh, the car's not the game. Oh, of course, F. Yes. Sorry, I see what you mean. Well, they're both good. I think the 2004's statistically they're more or less as good as each other, but the 2004 is just an improved version of the F2002. I mean, because I ranked them second and first when I ranked all the 2000s cars, but the 2004 is obviously one of the best racing cars of all time. How long did it take you to make the ranking every 90s driver? About 3 months. There was a gap because over Christmas I didn't touch it at all for a couple of weeks. And I was early on I was getting very lazy because I would do some research and do stuff, and then I would start other videos and other stuff. Yeah, I was working in the final, like from the new year onwards, I was working basically around the clock to get that one out. And I had to basically do 3 separate videos and merge them together because it was too long to just do it as one thing. Yeah, strange how the F2003 was so much worse than the 2002, 2004. Yeah, well, it was the tyres. That was the main difference. I mean, they changed a couple of other things, but the main problem was the tyres, and they had changed them. I think they had deliberately changed them just to suit the other teams. But then when Ferrari protested against Michelin about their tyre compounds, and then they suddenly won and then suddenly Williams and McLaren's pace goes out the window, and then Schumacher gets the title. Yeah, it was a funny one. 2003 was a funny one. So when people say that Kimi should have won, it's like maybe he should have, to be honest, because he was so close to it. And without that protest by Bridgestone, he probably would have. Championship Edition, yeah, I had the classic cars too. Again, really weird handling physics. But yeah, Championship Edition is just, although wet racing was horrid, like the AI were always, they drove as if it was dry. That was a big thing. So whenever there were wet races, I would just quit it and restart it because I was like, this is not fair. Yeah, Championship Edition is an S tier. It could, yeah, it would be my, if you had to name best F1 game ever, that would be my nomination. Which Ferrari title mess up is the worst? I guess 2008. Well, thinking recently, I mean, last year, I think, even with all the strategy errors, the car just wasn't really fast enough for a lot of the season. I don't think they would have still lost it fairly narrowly, even if they'd had good strategies. But 2008, that was very scrappy. Obviously, Singapore. Well, Massa and Hamilton both had scrappy races, and Hamilton had that very dodgy penalty in Belgium. But then Massa had a couple of, I mean, the first two races he crashed out of them, which really did not help it. But yeah, they won the constructors. They did, yeah. They won the constructors, but they lost the drivers' title. I mean, they won the constructors because Kovalainen just wasn't fast enough, to be honest. If Alonso had still been there, they would have lost the constructors as well. But you should do a nicer. Yeah, there is another Iceberg video coming eventually. In time, that will come. Yeah, Ferrari. I mean, I would say a big mess up would be 1980 because they went from having the fastest car to one of the slowest. Because they just built this thing that had like the Venturi tunnels were so much bigger, or they put the Boxer engine in, which took away the Venturi tunnels, and then that lost all the downforce. And so Jody Scheckter went from winning the title to scoring like only 2 points or something. Anyway, Need for Speed Carbon. So this is the most recent Need for Speed game on here. Okay, so on the face of it, basically the same as Most Wanted. Again, open world street racer. You should do a full video about that. Yeah, maybe I should, because I've touched on it in the ground effect video, which I did like almost a year ago now. I could do one about covering that, certainly. That's a good idea, actually. I'm short of ideas at the moment. Needs to be Carbon. This one, they brought in a sort of wingman element, where you would have someone that races with you, and they're there to like barge your opponents off the track. It was quite odd. And I remember you start out, there's a guy called Neville that you're given at the beginning, something like that. But yeah, I think with this one, I was like, it's basically the same as Most Wanted, but it's just not Most Wanted, and it didn't draw me in, and it had that weird system with the having the wingman thing. Ranking every race in some older series might be a cool video idea. Yeah, I was thinking about this. When I made the HRT 2012 video, I was thinking I could do one, ranking all the races that year. And because I had originally thought of an idea of ranking every race in the 2010s, but that would be that would take probably too long to be worth it, because there are over 200 races, and if I was going to do it justice, I would have to watch most of them back. And that. But yeah, it's I will do stuff ranking races, because obviously the Bahrain one, I got everyone else to do it. And speaking of, can you do more surveys in the future? Yes, there will be more. I'm gonna do another one soon, because now that Logan Sargent and Oscar Piastri have had a debut race, I'm gonna do oh my god, Earthquake, I saw shakes. I think that's just my mic. I'm probably it's got yeah. Yeah, no earthquakes in the UK. Survey. So yeah, I'm gonna do a survey for ranking every 2023 driver's debut. I'm gonna leave that to you lot, to my subscribers to rank, because I've done the champions and that, and their debuts and finals. So I think small scale ranking stuff, I can do surveys like that, because when it comes to ranking every driver of the 2010s or the 80s, I don't think it's fair to say, hi, here's a Google Docs thing, I want you to rank more than 100 drivers, most of whom you've probably never heard of as well, because there's like one-time pay drivers and and blah blah blah. So yeah, there will. I'll do more like subscriber ranking stuff, definitely. Okay, so anyway, back to this Need for Speed Carbon. Maybe just a C, because it's not fundamentally a bad game. It's just that it doesn't feel that different. You're not in Greece. Nope, not in Greece. Greece and have an earthquake drop. Yeah, no, we have. I mean, to be fair, we get tiny little tremors, like maybe once a year, but nothing. Only something that just shakes slightly, but not like an actual earthquake. Yes, I'll definitely rank this random guy from Hassler I've never even heard of, like, ever. Yeah, that's the thing for me. Even with the 90s, because that's before I was watching F1, I had to do a lot of research, because I was like, I know these drivers by name, but I don't, and you can look up their results on Wikipedia, but I don't even know, like, anything about them, to be honest. And so I had to, yeah. Whereas the 2010s and the 2000s, I could do most of that off what I knew from just watching it. I'm going off on so many tangents. Need for Speed Carbon, okay, that's just going to go in C, because it's fundamentally it's a good game, but it's just because it doesn't change anything for the better, so it's just like all right. My personal favourite Ferrari mess up is the modern era is 2022, and the reason is strategy blunder. In terms of driver, I think it's 2018 Vettel Hockenheim. Yeah. Vettel at Ferrari. I think it was a combination of obviously having to race against Lewis in his prime, Ferrari being useless on strategy, which was really limiting what he could do, and him having to basically give out strategies while driving. But also, I think the hybrid cars are just not as well suited, and Ferrari's design philosophy didn't really work with his driving style, because they kept saying, oh, we want, like, you know, we want like lots of front end high rake or whatever it was, when the Red Bulls he had were just made of diffuser and had a completely planted rear end, which is what Vettel likes. And so it just didn't work. And I think also having the turbos and the different engines, probably the throttle responses, it just changes, and it just didn't. It's a shame. 2018 is worse, because that was predominantly Vettel's errors that cost him, whereas in 2017, obviously Singapore was a thing, but after that, he had all those mechanical problems which just destroyed any chances he had of bouncing back. And it's the same that in 2018, Hockenheim did not cost him the championship, but then all the mistakes he started making after that, and the fact that from Hockenheim onwards, Lewis was driving basically perfectly, was what stopped him winning it. Honestly, Ferrari not knowing what the drivers want is what's killing them. Yeah, I don't know who they've got in their strategy team, but they seem to have all these different scenarios. They keep saying, oh, plan B, plan C, but then they can't decide what they want. And they can't make their mind up about which one they're actually going to use, and then you get, you know, stop inventing and that. Hello, who do you think will be a title contender this year? Max. I think, yeah. If Checo steps up massively to like Nico Rosberg levels, then maybe he can take it, but I don't think. I guess I'm saying this, to be honest, I'm saying this after only one race, where obviously like Bahrain last year, when we had that double retirement for Red Bull, and then he had it again in Australia, and we're like, oh, Ferrari have got this, and then, you know, everything else happened. Yeah, so Leclerc, the problem with Leclerc is he's on the back foot, because he had to change, was it the energy store before the race, and then he had to change it again after it died. So he's got a grid penalty coming soon already. They need to change the rules around engine limits and stuff, because you're getting so many grid penalties and all of that, because you can't possibly go the whole season without using like every component up. I mean, like again, another tangent. 2015, when you had like Button and McLaren getting their 100 place grid penalty in 2000 at Spa, I was like, that's just such a pointless number. Unless you're going to start them down at Blanchimont, I don't see what the point is of making that. Or if it carries over. So okay, you've taken 10 places off that at the next race, and now you've got a 90 place grid penalty at Singapore. If they did it like that, it would have worked, because it's like, well, that 100 place grid penalty, that's meaningless when you're only qualifying like 18th or 19th anyway. In the case that Red Bull maintain their dominance for the rest of the year, do you think Red Bull or Merc dominance is worse? Well, it depends how long this goes on. If in 5 years we're still here and and Verstappen is what, I can't do the maths, what, a 7-time champion by then, maybe then it would be worse. But for the time being, it's still early days. But it's not the problem in the Mercedes era. So 2014 to 2016, the main issue with that is that the fighting between Hamilton and Rosberg was good, but there was nothing going on behind. The racing was just boring. And after that, 2020 was dull. I look back on it. I mean, 2020 is a year in general that needs to be forgotten about for so many different reasons. But within F1, obviously, Hamilton had a very, very easy run to the title. 2019 was funny because it was dull at the start and then had crazy at the end because Ferrari were cheating and whatnot. So when they brought the wide body cars in, Mercedes were not outright dominant because Ferrari and Red Bull were kind of there or thereabouts. The issue was that Mercedes cars never broke down and they very rarely made any errors in terms of driver error or like strategy. So they just had the complete package. I thought the battle between Mercedes, 2020, like a lot of the races were quite mental, but in almost all of them it was Hamilton, Bottas and Verstappen running 5 seconds apart at the front pretty much, but there were obviously some pretty mental races, and this is the thing that happens in a lot of recent years. We've had really good midfield fighting, but we don't see so much of it because it's not happening at the front or it doesn't get remembered as easily. But obviously these days, the main saving point so far for 2023 is the fact that Aston Martin have improved so much. But yeah. Okay, going back to this. Colin McRae Dirt. I've played this one a lot. It's a good slog, to be honest. A random F1 chat stream with some racing games ranked here and there. Yeah. It's always going to go off on tangents. How long have I been going? Oh god, I've been going for over an hour now. So Colin McRae Dirt. Again, I bought this with my PS3. I think I've had a lot of fun with this gun because it is really like it gives you the full rally experience and that. And a really, really good mix of cars, again, because I don't follow rally too closely. And again, most of what I know is from the 90s when you had like Subaru, Mitsubishi, Peugeot, like the golden age of rallying. So there's a lot of cars I didn't know about. And you can do Pikes Peak on it. And it's just, yeah. It's good fun, to be honest. I don't know if I'd put it in S necessarily, but it's I've played that a lot and I've enjoyed it a lot. So I think Colin McRae Dirt, I'll put that in A tier. Aside from 2012, which year do you think is Fernando Alonso's best performance in an F1 season? Well, obviously his 2 championship years are the obvious ones. I think it's easy to discount 2001 because he was driving a Minardi, but he was driving it really well. He never scored points, but he was just miles better than his teammates, and obviously car broke down a lot, but he was giving everyone else a run for their money. But obviously, yes, to 05 and 06, he was driving extremely well. 05, he won because McLaren's cars kept breaking down. 06, again, he drove largely... Both he and Schumacher were pushing each other. That was like 2021 light, what we saw. They were both really pushing each other, and it just worked out better for him because, well, they both had a couple of mechanical breakdowns at moments when they shouldn't have, and he had things like his wheel nut coming off in Hungary, but then Schumacher crashed out in Australia, and he shot himself in the foot when he tried to block the track in Monaco in qualifying, and then obviously got his puncture in Brazil. Obviously, yeah, his 2 championship years are the best ones, I'd say. The F14, yes, he was miles better than Kimi in 2014. Kimi scored like only a fraction of the points that he did, I think. Dirt 1 is the only Dirt game that doesn't go for the whole Ken block, look at us rallying is the new skating thing. Dirt 2 and 3 have going on. Dirt 3, yeah. Dirt 2, so I bought this a while back. I've played it once, and I remember all I did at the beginning, it was like a sort of stadium type race thing, and I was like, I don't know, I'm not feeling it. Whereas Colin McRae Dirt has that, but it also has the traditional like time track stage course things that you would expect. And it feels like a simulation. It doesn't feel very arcadey to me. Okay. So next up is MotorStorm Pacific Rift. So this is another arcade one. I don't own this, but one of my friends had it, and I used to play it a lot with him. Again, so yeah, this is like off-road, like monster trucks and stuff, driving around like Pacific Islands and everything. And yeah, so arcade, good fun. Just I think for a while, I think it was 2006, 2007, the first year that the PS3 had been released, MotorStorm was the best-selling PS3 game for a while. I remember correctly, and this is just the sequel. Yeah, you can race motorbikes, and like that was fun. Because the thing is, it sounds a bit more. If you crash, the rider flies off or something, and so they'd gone all out with the crash physics in these games, and that could always be a good laugh. So yeah, not a simulation game by any means, but just a good arcade. So yeah, MotorStorm Pacific Rift. I'll put that an A. I think, yeah. Right, now we're getting to what everyone I think is waiting to see. F1 2010. So the hype around this game was massive when it came out, and I was absolutely blown away by it. It raised the bar so much. It included so many features that didn't really happen in Championship Edition. Obviously I said about it had flashbacks, which is kind of a mixed blessing. But it had, like, when they first released it, it had so many problems they had to fix it, and so many bugs and glitches. I remember one of the biggest issues to this day is the AI. Because when they first did it, the AI, the cars that you raced on track they had no relation at all to the timings you were seeing, and they were just designed to get in your way, and they would do that. I mean, they would do this in qualifying. They would always come out of the pit lane just as you're starting a hot lap and block you. But I remember them being fairly racy. The problem was as well is that if they got 2 or 3 corners ahead, they then just disappeared off the circuit, and they would just. I had races where I'm driving an HRT. And Karun Chandok is setting the fastest lap of the race and stuff like that. It was weird. And I remember one race, I was getting lapped, but I turned the penalty system was dumb. I turned that down so I wasn't going to get penalised for ignoring blue flags. And I had the whole field behind me for about 15 laps, just not passing me. And then suddenly I start a lap and it's my in lap. And then suddenly they all just barge past me at turn 1. And it's just like, what is going on? So it had, the AI were quite funny, but it had good really, for the time, really, really good graphics, and it had the dynamic weather, and the tire wear was good. One problem I don't think the AI actually had fuel usage, so if you raced with refueling on, they were starting as if they were on quali fuel or something, which explained why I was often so much slower. But it was a very good start for them. But it is dated, and it shows its age, and it does have some problems. Looking back, the curbs are of death sentence, but on F1 20, memories. Yeah, for me, this one, the driving physics are not realistic, but I think it's the easiest to drive because the cars are basically glued to the circuit. Like, no matter what, they just won't. It's like driving the fan car, the Brabham BT 46 or whatever it was. You can just go full throttle out of a corner and it won't spin. So yeah, I'll put it in A because it was quite. It was a good start, but it has its problems. Okay. F1 Challenge. I didn't have F1 Challenge. That's one of the older ones I never played. Also, easiest to drive, find it the most annoying one. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's if I was doing simulation, I'd want it harder. But sometimes you just want to be able to drive something without having to concentrate too much. And some of the later F1 games, for me, the driving physics are just really annoying, which I'll get to. F1 Stars, yeah, I didn't play that one. That one's the one that's like it's like but it's not really like Mario Kart, is it? Or it's similar to that. It has that kind of arcadey kind of thing. Certainly. Okay, Gran Turismo 5. So GT5 basically is by and large the same as GT4, but just has obviously fits for PS3, so it has much improved graphics, better physics, up to 16 cars per per race, so that's an improvement. My issues with it, partly because there were like 2 tiers of cars, because some of the cars didn't have fully detailed interiors, and that's some of the more simple ones. And also making A-Spec compulsory, A-Spec and B-Spec compulsory for everything, that was a pain. Rather than just, because in GT4 it was easy to just do everything on B-Spec. And GT5's B-Spec system, it was more realistic in that you can't just say for a 24-hour race, oh, please drive flat out the whole time. You had to give commands every 30 seconds to the driver and that. I remember B-Spec being a real pain in the arse, trying to get the drivers up to scratch and getting them to not just spin all the time. The 24-hour races, I think I did eventually complete them by running it overnight, but if I never completed them in A-Spec, I'd have to do them in bits, because you could do mid-race saves, I think. Did you try the R510? No, I never got it. This was the thing, because this is the other problem that it had compared to GT4, is that some of the cars were so ridiculously expensive, because there were some that were like 20 million credits, and it takes a long time to get that much money in GT5 and to do it again and again. So the grind was real. I remember I spent one summer doing, I think it was either the Indy 500 or one of the races in Indy, and just doing that over and over again, because it was the fastest way to get money. And that, where is Mario Kart? It's not on here. I haven't played Mario Kart nearly enough to give a fair assessment of it, unfortunately. But yeah, the Ferrari F10, I never bought it, and again, this was the issue, because you can't race on it as well. I was thinking, well, it's a lot to spend on a car that you can only use in time trial, but I'm curious to see how it handled and how it drove, and compare how fast it was, because in GT4 you had the Formula Gran Turismo, which you basically had to use because it was the fastest car, but the problem was you couldn't change the tires, so it couldn't do long runs very easily, and it was a nightmare to drive. The umpire said default car because that's the fastest car I had. A Zonda, I don't remember, but the Pagani, yeah, there were, because there were Pagani Zondas in GT4 too. So yeah, GT5, and I got all the downloadable add-ons. So fundamentally, it is good, because it's refining GT4, but it doesn't have that same edge that GT4 had, and like the music isn't as good. GT4 and GT3 both have amazing like menu music and stuff. I don't know about A, to be honest, for GT5. I think because the B-Spec was a pain, and the compulsory A B-Spec meant it was way more of a grind than it should have been. I remember rallying being a nightmare, actually, as well. That I had to completely readjust how to drive the cars on rally tracks, because at first I was ridiculously slow. I'll put GT5 can go in A, I think. Okay, F1 2011. So this one is... I played this a lot when I had it, because it was the latest one, and it... So it has better graphics than 2010. The driving physics are completely different. This one is really weird. Like, you can throw the cars into the corner. You basically have to throw the cars into the corner and they'll stay on track. One of the problems it had was it had really, really bad draw distance. So the graphics, it was really hard to see the upcoming corners and judge your braking. But I remember that it was also maybe a bit too easy. The AI were not that hard to beat, because I remember winning races in a Force India and stuff like that. And you could, I going back to it more recently, the tires are way too durable compared to how they were in real life, because that's the first year of Pirellis, and the tires, they can last almost as long as the Bridgestones, which in real life they just couldn't do. So yeah, for me it was a mixture of, it's not bad, but it had the graphics are better, but it had slightly odd driving physics. It was difficult to see corners coming up because the graphics were kind of funny. So, because this one didn't have classic cars, so they hadn't introduced that element to it yet. I think S, along 2010. 2012. I've played this a ton in the past few years because doing my videos about HRT and that and Lotus kind of re, um, re kind of resurrected my interest in wanting to do this. So 2012 on PS2, I barely touched it because I remember getting it and you had to do those driving tests at the start. And because they had changed the physics so that you couldn't just throw the cars into the corner, I couldn't adjust to that at first. I was like, I can't be arsed with this. But then on PC, I find it much easier. Like I don't know what it is, but playing it on PC, it's much easier to keep up with the AI because on PS2, PS3 even, it's just impossible at some circuits. They're always faster no matter what you do. But PC, and there's a mod. I got a mod which it was designed to improve the AI and make them more realistic. Because the problem that these games have is that the AI almost never make mistakes, and the cars don't break down. So you can go a whole race with not a single retirement, but also they will not overtake you. They just won't do it. Like, even if they get ahead of you, they're in a DRS and they got right past. If they're not back on the racing line, they will just brake ridiculously early. And that completely... and obviously, the later games don't have that problem. They've got very, very good AI behavior by comparison to this. So the mod, it made it a little bit better. There was still the problem of them just refusing to overtake you, but the cars broke down more and made more mistakes. So you could have races where if you're in an HRT and it's like, oh, you're starting 24th, you need to finish 22nd to please us, and you can finish 16th just because other people are breaking down. 2012 was great. Had a funny thing. It was one of the few that had a great F1 game edition at the same time with the great. Yeah, I mean, it helps. It's a nostalgia thing because 2012 was such a good season and the cars were great, and it was just to be able to play that again. Obviously, it has the 2012 HRT, which I love. It also had the champions mode. That was fun when you had to beat each 6 champions in a straight fight in different challenges. The wet weather physics, I remember that being a nightmare. It has an obsession with making in career mode, almost every race has rain in it at some point. And the problem is that when the track is drying, if you go slightly off the racing line, the car just slides off immediately. And you can lose like 40 seconds a lap if you're not really, really careful. And that was always a huge nightmare. And you had to be so careful about when you did and didn't pit. Because there was no... like in real life, you can get away with pitting one lap early or one lap late, but if you didn't pit on the right exactly the right lap when all the other AIs would pit for dry tires, it was game over. You'd be stuck like a minute behind them. But this one again, I never really played. The thing is, I have this thing of always starting with back markers, so I would do career mode. I'd start with HRT or Marussia, and then midway through I'd move up to like Williams, and then I'd just get bored. And so I'd never played it like driving Red Bull and McLaren winning races. So I've always done it from the perspective of driving at the back, getting lapped all the time. It keeps me going, even though it has its problems. I really liked that concept of being given an objective by the team. Yeah, no, obviously all of them had that, and that was a really good idea. In one sense, I wish it was a tad more realistic because it was things like, again, it's just me being obsessive HRT. Like, it would annoy me when there are races where you would qualify 19th in an HRT ahead of Lotus and Marussia, and it's like, that would never happen in real life. I want to be qualifying 23rd, 22nd on a good day, and it's like, your target is to beat a Marussia. Like, that's completely realistic. And so a lot of the time that it didn't feel so realistic in that sense, the targets and that. I think I'll put it in S, to be honest, because I put 2010 and 2011 in A, so I think I could put that one up. So 2012 is going to go in S. 2013. If you Fernando and Lewis car didn't break down, do you think we'll have a triple donut event in Abu Dhabi 22? Oh, I see what you mean. I think maybe people wanted that. Yeah, of course, that's reference to 2018. Yeah, maybe they could have. I mean, I think there was an official plan that just Vettel was going to do it. Maybe they would have joined him. I don't know. Champions mode was awesome. The Jensen Button one was insanely hard. I'm trying to remember, because I remember you did... The first one was with Kimi at Spa, and then there was Schumacher at Sepang. I think it was Hamilton... Was it... Button was the one at Brazil in the rain. Yeah, that one was a bit knotty, I think. This game had R&D yeah, all of the co-mastering, and that was the research and development. But when you start it, because you're not the team leader, you can't choose it. But the thing is, I looked at that, and it was only every 4 or 5 races they would bring some new element, and it was only a small upgrade. It's like this, you're only going to see noticeable differences if you decide to spend the entire 5-year timeline at one team. I don't even think, because when you in 2010 you don't even have like different throttle maps at first. You have to get those. I'm assuming that eventually with Marussia and HRT in 2012 you can upgrade and get KERS, which in real life they didn't have. Dirt Rally 2, yeah, no, it's not on here. There's another one I've not played, unfortunately. Okay, 2013. So this one, everyone loves this game, and it just doesn't work for me. I've tried to adjust to it, but partly because it's about the 2013 season, which was complete dog shit compared to 2012. But the tyres are an absolute nightmare. Like, you can't... The cars... The physics have changed, so the cars are even more wobbly. There's... Because I drove with traction control on, they would always, like, pivot into corners, and you would always get oversteer, and that... But you could go, like, 5 laps, and then you have to pit again. And the tyres just... They did not last. And again, this isn't on Steam, so I can't do it on PC. PS3, I've had to turn the difficulty settings down, because I was like, I can't keep up with anyone. But it introduced, mid-race saves, so that's a good thing. And it had the first classic cars. And that, so... That it has, I think that's one thing people really like about 13 is that it's the classic cars, because it has ones you don't have in the others, because it's got some of the turbo cars from the 80s and that, which I tried. I mean, they're a nightmare to drive, but it's great that they're in there, certainly. Do you realise when Fernando Alonso joins McLaren, some bad luck will happen? 2007 misses title by 1 point. Honda. Yeah, okay, another deviation. Alonso at McLaren, I don't think 2007 was bad luck. I think that was him basically... I think it was Lewis getting in his head, because he wasn't expecting to be pushed so hard by a rookie. And he... Well, his big bottling it was him crashing out in Fuji. But... it wasn't like that. There weren't any mechanical breakdowns in 2007. It was more just that because Lewis was pushing him way harder than he thought he would, and they were getting scrappy, and he had Spygate as well, and so then here comes Kimi. But yeah, obviously, 20 when he was there, 2015 to 2018, yeah, mostly the engines were the problem, and he himself did not help because he was so disparaging of Honda, which really is not... That's his main weakness as a driver. And Alonso... Okay, I'm going to say it. Alonso is he's a more naturally talented driver than Hamilton and Verstappen. He's the best... I think he's the most naturally talented driver of his generation. The problem he has is that he is not very congenial, and he makes really bad business decisions when it comes to what teams he drives for. So for most of his career, he's been playing basically 4D chess in 2D cars. Had he hypothetically joined Mercedes in 2014, he would have won every race he finished, I think. He almost never makes mistakes himself. He's involved in... I mean, he's often been... Not so much these days, I mean, when he was... But yeah, these days, he's so well-rounded, so experienced. The problem he has is cars that break down or getting involved in accidents that aren't his fault. But he is obviously just a supremely talented driver, and he just puts... He always gives it his all, and puts complete effort into absolutely everything. And now it's starting to pay off. This is the reverse of Schumi, who honestly became an honorary team boss in every team he ended up until Mercedes. Yeah, obviously Schumi is the complete opposite of that, in that he built teams up around him, and he was a team player, and he knew how to rouse people up and all of that. Alonso, if things aren't working, he's just going to rage quit, basically. But at the moment, things are working at Aston Martin. No, it's off topic. Have you attended any F1 races, or are you planning to? I went to Silverstone in 2011 and 2012. Absolutely. I mean, the races were kind of average, but when you're watching it live, you don't care if it's a good or bad race because it's such an amazing experience being there in the flesh, especially pre-hybrid era when the cars sound like they should. Um, that was, yeah, I absolutely loved it. I haven't been since because it's ridiculously expensive. I plan to go in the future, certainly to Silverstone. I'm not going to any races this year, but in the future, I would like to go to Silverstone again and some other races. And meet obviously other content creators, go and meet them and stuff like that. Yeah, I would love to go to more races, definitely. Name every max DNF. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Too many engine failures. Way too many. I could probably name every like Hamilton retirement off the top of my head because he's only had about 25 of them. But yeah, Alonso is very much like Jacques, literally just JV but better in every way. Also in contention for the Triple Crown of Motorsport, just like Jacques. Yeah, because obviously Alonso, he did win Le Mans, didn't he? But it's Indy where he hasn't won it. And yeah, we need someone else because obviously Graham Hill is the only person who has the Triple Crown, and that was in an era when you were a lot people mixed and drove in other series a lot more, and that doesn't really happen these days. I mean, Montoya's part of the way there, isn't he, as well, to getting it. If anyone could get the Triple Crown, I think it would be Alonso. No test drive unlimited. No, I'm afraid not. That's not there. What are your thoughts on the video looking at all major reg changes? Yeah, something like that. That's a very broad topic. I mean, one video idea I've had for years, which I've just I haven't done anything on. I was gonna do one like the kind of the cars that revolutionized Formula One. So I'd cover like the beginning, and then I cover like what the Cooper T54 was, it that the first mid-engine car to win a race, and then all the Lotuses, and then Ground Effect and Williams and all something like that. I might certainly do, and that covers reg changes to a degree. My favorite F1 era is because I watched it and loved it. It's the what I call the 2.4 liter like V8 diffuser era from 2009 roughly till 2013 even, I'd say. So what tier is F1? Oh yeah, so back to, yeah, I've deviated massively. F1 2013. Okay, I don't like this nearly as much as 2012. The driving physics are really funny. The tires are absolutely awful, but it has the classic cars. And that has, and a lot of people absolutely love it, but for me it just doesn't land. I find it very annoying as a game. So I'm going to put it in B. Okay, so Gran Turismo 6. GT6, I think I bought this and I completed it in maybe 2 weeks. It's really, really small scale compared to GT4 and GT5. There's hardly like the endurance races. It's the 24 minutes of Le Mans, but the weather changes every lap, and there weren't any like side events like manufacturer events and missions like you had in GT4. Oh god, I've just remembered now. The catch-up missions in GT4, that was the best thing ever, when you had to drive like at the Nürburgring, the Mercedes around and catch all the slower cars that started for. That is so much fun. I wish they'd done that in the later ones too. I said it was like this Monza 2020 when Hamilton had his grid penalty and he had to catch up. I was like, that's literally him doing one of those GT4 one lap challenge missions where you have to catch all the slower cars that start before you. GT6, but GT6, yeah, it there isn't enough, but it had a couple of cool additions. It had the whole Ayrton Senna tribute. That was quite neat. You could drive on the moon. That was a fun little thing, but it was, for obvious reasons, very, very difficult to drive when you've got hardly any gravity. And the Goodwood thing, that I remember the very last Goodwood challenge when you have to drive the Red Bull, the X2010, up the Goodwood hill climb. I think I spent about 2 hours trying to gold that because it's obviously not designed for that. It's way too fast to go up the Goodwood hill climb. So it introduced a few things like that, but otherwise it's too small scale. There's not nearly enough to do. It can be completed really fast, and it doesn't have it's just too small a scale. There's not enough to keep you going, really. and I just completed it too quickly. Even though it added, new cars, a few new circuits, it had I keep thinking there was something else it threw in. Again, it had the other problem of really, really expensive cars that you had to grind away at for absolutely ages to buy, which is even worse because you earned even less and there were fewer missions you could do. So GT6, I put either GT5 is in A. B tier feels a little unfair, to be honest, for GT6. Yeah, I think I'll put it in A because it's a bit small scale, but it introduces a couple of fun new modes. Okay, next up is Assetto Corsa. So right. So Assetto Corsa is obviously designed to be played with a steering wheel, which I don't have. And if you play it on a controller, there is no option in the controls to use X and square for accelerate and brake, which is what I've always done. So you have to use the triggers, which I'm not really accustomed to, with mods or without. I haven't used any mods in the sense that like people like Jimmy Broadbent and that I've downloaded the add-ons that add like the Porsche pack and all the extra Ferraris and that sort of thing, and a bunch of other circuits. I've done a little bit of the career mode on it. The main issue holding me back from playing it more is the controls. That's making it difficult. But I absolutely love the fact that you can choose your opponents in arcade mode, because that is what I've always wanted from, well, any other game, but especially GT5. And the closest you got to that before was and again, I forgot to mention this with F1 Championship Edition. Was in arcade mode, you could customize the grid as you wanted. You could have so much fun with that. Whereas in the Codemasters games, you can't do that. It's just a randomized grid in arcade mode. So Assetto Corsa, I love that you can do that because you can have all the experiments I wish I could have had in GT4 of having cars of different types and different classes going against each other. Again, amazing graphics. The physics, it's hard to judge because I can't drive it very well. So it's obviously a good game, and I can tell because it's one of these ones that's been kind of kept alive by the mods that you can do on it, and I've seen a lot of that from watching Jimmy Broadbent. Why is F1 2013 lower than 2011? It's lower because the AI are really difficult and the tyres are a complete nightmare. That's the main thing. It was just it's very... I really struggled to have the patience to do a full-length race on 2013 because the tyres just are made of cheese, basically. But obviously it has classic cars and that, but it was just it didn't have the staying power that 2011 had, or 2010 for me. But Assetto Corsa, yeah. From my experience of playing it, I would say A. If I'd done the mods and I had a steering wheel, I could probably put it in S. But it's obviously got a lot of good things going for it. So Assetto Corsa, I'll put that in A. I think. Your favorite YouTuber? Well, in terms of F1 YouTubers, probably my favorite one at the moment is Rocket Powered Mohawk. YouTubers in general, I have no idea. I watch a lot of YouTube. There's a channel called Bedtime Stories that does like stories about like ghost sightings and alien encounters and strange and murders and disappearances. That's a load of fun, but that's completely off topic. Alain Prost or Sebastian Vettel? Prost. Yeah. Yeah, I think Prost. If you again different eras, but yeah. Prost was more. He raced at a time when the cars were more temperamental, but he was called a professor for a reason, and that. And he knew his stuff. He didn't make as many mistakes as Vettel. I mean, they're both obviously excellent drivers, but I'd pick Prost over Vettel even. I don't see F1 race stars god tier. Yeah, that's one I've not touched, but yeah, obviously a lot of people are saying they love it. Okay, F1 2014. So this one, I've played this. I feel like I've played it more than I should, because I was curious to get it because I thought, okay, 2014, it's hybrid era. The main the problem I have is that aside from the cars, it is literally the same as 2013 and 2012. They haven't changed any. There's no new elements drawn in apart from taking classic cars away. The driving physics again are strange, but they're more manageable. So I don't have such an issue with the driving. The problem I have again is the AI are just really bad. It just got boring because it was the problem with the AI either being impossibly fast or just refusing to overtake you normally. And the 2014 season was just a dud in general. And the funny graphics. Yeah. So 2014. I like the fact that you can choose which team you start with from any of them in career mode, so you don't have to start at the back if you want, even though whenever I did, I always started with Marussia or Caterham. So if you wanted to start with Mercedes, you can. There's at least that option. It has, flashbacks and mid-session save, but otherwise it just doesn't change anything. I guess I'd put it in... B or C. I think maybe that will go in C. Dream car to own or drive, road and race car. Okay, well, when it comes to race cars, the two cars I want to drive more than any other are probably the Ferrari F2004 and the HRT F112, just to see what it's like. And because nobody else would ever pick an HRT. Those are the two F1 cars I want to drive. One of the best and one of the worst F1 cars. Road cars, oh goodness. It's going to be a Porsche. A classic 911 would be fun. I like the 911, the 996 911 Turbo from 2000 because it's in Need for Speed Porsche 2000, which we put on here. I'd love to have one of those. Definitely, a good Porsche would do it for me. My friends and I had a league on a pirated version of F1 2014. The driving is pretty bad. We just switched to F1 2013. The weird thing is the cars are on rails on that game. Spinning is impossible. 2013 for me, you had oversteer, but it would always correct itself. So the problem you had is the cars didn't spin easily unless the tyres were cooked. But going through, for example, turn 3 at Barcelona, the car would kind of wobble. You couldn't get a smooth line through. It would oversteer and then correct, and that would slow it down. That was the issue, is that cars were just... It was like they were kind of on a pivot, almost. Could you choose either Hamilton or Rosberg as your Mercedes teammate when you started there, or did the game choose you? I think... whichever team you start with, you're the second driver, so I think... I'm assuming that Hamilton was first driver because Schumacher was first driver and then he took his seat. Even though Rosberg had been there longer, I think Hamilton was first driver in 2014, and obviously in 2015 onwards he was champion. And which of them are hard to beat? This is the thing. I don't remember there being a huge amount of different. I don't know how much detail the earlier F1 games went into in terms of individual drivers having driving styles and stuff, which they've done more in the later ones. Because I mostly drove with Caterham and Marussia, I remember Hamilton was often much faster than Rosberg, though. Yeah, for some reason people don't like F1 games where the cars don't spin easily. Yeah, well, for me it's because I use a controller, so I want something that's reasonably easy to drive, especially if I'm going to do a full-length race. If I had a steering wheel, maybe I'd feel differently. In 2013, Rosberg was first driver. Okay, yeah, I thought so because he was the senior driver. So I imagine it was that case in 2015 as well, 2014 as well. What do you think is the best motor drive to survive season 5? I watched it last week, but I had it on like all day in the background while I was working, so I wasn't paying. Maybe I should watch it again. I wasn't paying a huge amount of attention because it was just on the background. I thought, oh, it's DTS. It's going to be the usual stuff. So I'm not sure. I'll have to watch it again. But yeah, everyone's talking about the argument with Christian and Toto because it is just like the Christian and Toto show, basically. Drive to Survive. If you get a steering wheel, which one do you get? I don't really. Well, I don't. I'm not up to date on what the good brands are, but people talk about the Logitech ones. I remember those are the ones that were always sold with the Gran Turismo games and were designed for them. I want, like, I suppose whatever Jimmy Broadbent has got, he's got a good setup, something like that. Like when you've got the proper bucket seat and everything else, that's what I want, really. Do you think Man and Russia would still be on the grid if they finished 10th and Mercedes helped them more in 2016? Maybe. I think probably because they would have got prize money for that, and they had a car. They had a concept of a car for 2017. So yeah, but obviously Mercedes didn't seem to be interested in helping them too much. But that was by far their strongest year, 2016. They probably could have kept going. So if they'd gotten 10th, I think they'd still be here, and so would Sauber, if they'd finished 11th. Okay, BeamNG.drive. Now this is a laugh. Obviously not a racing game, but just it's more of a crash simulator. This is the game I wanted when I was a kid in terms of how good the crash physics are, because it just takes it to a whole new level. And I love watching the videos that get put on YouTube of people just experimenting and flinging cars off cliffs and all of that. I just think that's great. I haven't played an enormous amount of it, but from what I've done, and this again is another one that is very, like, it needs to be modded heavily. I just realised GT7 is missing on the list. Where would you put it? It's not on the list because I haven't played it. I've seen obviously a few live streams of people playing it, and I think I'm told that one of the big issues is the whole microtransactions and the ridiculous that they've taken the amount of grinding that you need to do to a whole new level. In terms of buying cars and everything else. I'll play it at some point, but I provisionally, let's say A, but I haven't played it. I think BeamNG has better driving than Assetto Corsa because it can do gravel well. Yeah, it's difficult to compare the two because it has BeamNG. It does have missions, but it's mostly just it's not really a racing game. It's more just to fuck around on, to be honest. But BeamNG.drive, okay, amazing graphics. The physics are 10 out of 10, like amazing crash physics, and it's such a good laugh. So I think I'm going to put BeamNG.drive in S for that. Did you know that Razer collabed with Williams to make gaming chairs? I did not. I need a gaming chair because the chair I've got at the moment doesn't have arms on it, which is a pain. I need a proper PC chair, I think. Okay, F1 2015. This one's really puzzling because I don't know what's wrong with the driving settings on it, because whenever I try and play it, the steering just goes mental. Like, the only setting seems to be full lock, no matter how much you turn. And when I first played it, there was something wrong with the camera settings. It meant the camera was always facing to the side. But it does have quite bizarre driving physics. And I can't really... Something's wrong in the settings when I play it, because the steering sensitivity has gone up to like 1,000, and you see the cockpit, and you tap the steering, and the car just goes like this, and like a really, really old game. And there's something wrong with it, which makes it basically undrivable. And again, it has different graphics. It looks quite different from the others. Most people don't like it. And again, 2015 was a trash season for Formula One. Yeah, there's 2015. There's no impulse really to play it, but Wish we had couch co-op F1. Yeah, they did have. Wasn't that there was a co-op championship or co-op mode in 2015? But otherwise, it just didn't. Also, you couldn't career mode. You couldn't make yourself. You had to pick a driver and drive as them. People didn't like that. I remember. I just remember the F1 YouTuber challenge this and the many issues. I don't remember that. That was before my time. But yeah, I'm sure there would have been problems. I'll put this in D. I think. F1 2015. Okay, F1 2016. So here is when this was when things changed, really, and they started getting good. They got into a really good formula, which they've kept. Formula, pun intended, which they've kept since then, because they changed the way the R&D works, and you had the points that you accrue through the tests you do in practice. Better graphics, good physics. The AI are improved massively at this point, and ever since then, the AI have been really good, and it's made the racing really engaging. Although we still have the issues in the more recent F1 games of drivers not making mistakes very often and never really breaking down. So you're having and that, but 2016 otherwise it does a good job. For me, the cars are a little funny to drive. I think it's more because of what cars they are, because this is before the wide body and the bigger tyres, so they just don't have as much downforce. And they were a lot slower in real life than from 2017 onwards. But 2016, this is a good turn. They changed the formula up and they made it work. So I think 16, put that in A tier for me. Do you think Checo will be P2 this season? More than likely, I think, yeah, with the way it's looking. I'd sort 2014 2015. 2015 is much better even with bugs. AI is super aggressive with racing results one. The graphics at some points better than 2016-17. Yeah, 2015, the graphics are just different. The thing is, I haven't played it much because it is so hard to just play, because the controls and the driving physics are messed up. The calibration's wrong. It has really weird physics, whereas 2014, even if it's boring, it's at least drivable and that. But 2015, I just couldn't handle it. And all I want, the thing is, me being me, I would have just played as Manor Marussia, and I would have found it really boring because there would have been nobody to race against, because they were. That was a funny year for 2015 because they were using 2014's car, completely unmodified. And so it's definitely not the worst F1 car made, but it's one of the least competitive relative to its opponents. They were always at least 2 to 3 seconds off the rest of the field. It was a funny year, 2015. Okay, F1 2017. So all of the remaining ones, they're not hugely different from one another. 2017 is by and large the same as 2016. Juiced and F. Yeah, I gave that to. It's because I refunded it after like a week or two. I remember being very unimpressed with it. When I had it. Yeah, F1 2017. So same basic thing as 2016. Obviously, the newer cars, so they're faster. This one, it was either this one or 2018 that introduced classic cars, and that is a whole new thing on top, and that was great fun. You could get away with way too much oversteer in 2017. Yeah, you can be more aggressive with these later games. The cars are just generally fairly. I think there's a reasonably good balance of the cars being realistic but also easy to drive. They've got it down for that. I'll put 2017 in A. It's not significantly different from 16. 2018. So again, 2018 again. It's the same, but for the 2018 cars, this one definitely does have the classic cars, and it has some that don't appear in the later ones. But this one has, obviously, going all the way back to the 1970s, and that, like, and 2017 it did have classics, right? Yeah, I haven't touched them much in 2017, but 18 has, like, goes back all the way to the Lotus 72, and you got the ground effect cars, and you got the 90s cars. A really, really good mix, of classic cars, some of which are missing from the more recent ones. 18, I remember the menu musical is quite good, and again the driving is good, the AI is good. It was a good season in general. The graphics are better than 17. Because I've done a season with this as Haas, and I've done a few races on it. 2013 B tier. It's because of the driving physics and the tires. That's why I just could not get to grips with it. And also because it's the 2013 season, so it just doesn't draw me in as much. 2018. I think I could put 2018 in S, to be honest. It's just a little bit better, I think, than 16 and 17. 2019. This was the first one of these more recent ones that I played and I got. And this, yeah, again, it has by and large the same as 18. It doesn't work anymore. For some reason, it just crashes on startup, which is annoying because I want to play this one because it has all the classic cars going back to the 70s, but the graphics are so much better. They jumped right up with this one. I remember when the demos came out and everyone was like, "Oh my god, that looks so much better." And yeah, 2019. It's just fundamentally good. It just improves. It has the classic cars. I think it has Formula 2. I think 2019. This is the first one to have Formula 2 as well, and that is a great addition. It's good that it's there. I mean, I do it as well as the F1, but obviously the cars are very. They drive like absolute ass, which my impression is that's how they drive in real life. But yeah, 2019 that'll be an S. 2020 I've done a lot on this. Because I'm kind of forced to because 2019 doesn't work so much. So this one introduces my team, and that's a really cool addition, is that you can create your own team. And so obviously I've got my own team. I don't like the fact obviously that the cars look quite bland, and then even when you modify them they still look the same, but you've got your own team, you're running it. That's a cool addition. My main issue is the classic cars is that it removes all of the ones from the 70s and the early 80s. That was quite disappointing. And yeah, it's also interesting because it gives you the opportunity to do a sort of reimagined 2020 had the pandemic not happened. So it's missing it's missing things like Istanbul and Nürburgring and those ones. But then you can rank on like you can race at Vietnam, which obviously they didn't do in real life, and that is a weird. I didn't like the track. It's a very, very strange circuit. I can't stand big corners that get tighter and tighter. I don't like that, and it has its wiggly S section where you have to be really coordinated. I don't know how it would have been if they'd raced there. It probably wouldn't have been bad because it's just a very eccentric circuit. But it's things like that it has, and so it has that element to it. But the main problem again is that the AI, they don't make mistakes and they almost never break down, and it is obsessed with putting in safety cars where they're not needed. This is okay. This is by far my biggest criticism with the more recent Codemasters games is safety cars, because every time a car retires, you get a safety car, and the thing is, it will wait until everybody has caught up, and so safety cars go on way longer than they should. I mean, in real life they go on longer than they should, but they take it to a whole new level in 2020. But otherwise, yeah, it's good. It's got a good. I mean, 2020 is the best Cody so far. The cars actually felt like they had grip and downforce. Yeah, it's good. It's got a good balance for physics and that the driving. So yeah, again, it's another S. I think it's another S tier. So the final one is 2021. I've only done a few races on this. The problem I had is that it didn't. On my previous laptop, it didn't really run because the processing power wasn't high enough. It does run on my current one, and my impressions so far are good in the sense that the cars are a little bit more wobbly, so that's good. The AI are improved in that they do actually make mistakes now, and so you feel the races are actually more interesting. Because one of my issues in 2020 is there were a lot of races where I just gave up. I'd get 20 laps in, I'm thinking, okay, I'm I'm pulling away from the people behind me, and I'm dropping back from the ones in front. Nobody's going to retire. Everyone's going to pit on the same lap, and nothing's going to happen. So I may as well just retire. Whereas in 2021, it's still very engaging. One thing I wish I'd remember when I went back to it is, of course, this is the year that they banned engine mapping. And so there was a crash at the start in Imola, and I turned the engine down in the safety car and then couldn't turn it up again, so I had to run the entire race on the low fuel mix, which really damaged my race pace and meant I was running with heavy fuel at the end. But otherwise, yeah, it got rid of classic cars though, so which people didn't like. And that F1 2020 lobbies are horrendous. Yeah, I've done a bit of online in 2019 and 20, and I do it a bit. The problem is, again, is I had this in Gran Turismo. Playing it online is good luck getting through turn 1. If you want to play properly, you won't be able to, because people are just going to barge you off the track. But every so often you could get just a proper race. I haven't done online on 2021, because I haven't been able to play it nearly as much because it's just not as playable. Because it really didn't work. The VSC, the Delta was not working. If you ain't careful, you get a penalty. Yeah, the safety car. They need to improve the safety cars, I think, and how they work. There's things to, in real life and in the games. They go on for too long. Safety cars, basically. So 2021, it improves in some areas, but then it's worse in others. So I think I'll put that in 20. I'll put that in A, I think. No red flags in any new games. Yeah, you can't, because you can get red flag in the old. I remember 2012. You can get red flags and you can get safety cars, but I never had a safety car anywhere other than Monaco. They're really, really rare. Yeah. So yeah, okay. So we got there two and a bit hours later. So to summarize, in S tier, I put TOCA 2 touring cars, Crash Team Racing, Need for Speed Porsche 2000, TOCA World Touring Cars, Gran Turismo 3, The Simpsons Hit and Run, Burnout 3 Takedown, Driven to Destruction, Gran Turismo 4, Need for Speed Underground 2, Need for Speed Most Wanted, Formula 1 Championship Edition, F1 2012, BeamNG.drive, F1 2018, F1 2019, and F1 2020. In A, we have Screamer Rally, Midtown Madness 2, Ford Racing 2, Need for Speed Underground, MotorStorm Pacific Rift, Colin McRae Dirt, F1 2010, Gran Turismo 5, F1 2011, Gran Turismo 6, Assetto Corsa, F1 2016, F1 2017, and F1 2021. In B tier, Colin McRae Rally, F1 World Grand Prix, The Simpsons Road Rage, and F1 2013. In C, Big Red Racing, Final Racing, TOCA Touring Car Championship, Need for Speed Road Challenge, Need for Speed High Stakes if you're in the US, Crash Nitro Kart, TOCA Race Driver 2, Need for Speed Carbon, and F1 2014. In D, Network Q RAC Rally Championship, NASCAR Racing 3, Formula 1 2001, Gran Turismo Concept 2002, Tokyo to Geneva, and F1 2015, and then in F is Juiced. So yeah, there's more that went on almost as long as my normal tier things, even though there's much less to cover because I could talk about them a bit longer. Yeah, it's made me realise from what people are suggesting how many games I haven't played actually, and a lot of these are ones I played quite a long time ago because I don't do so much gaming these days and don't have like PS4s and stuff. But it's good fun, yeah. It's good to reminisce. I would have one idea I'd had was actually going on YouTube and searching for footage, but then I wondered if I was going to get done for copyright or something if I did that. There is one more thing that I wanted to do. So somebody, a subscriber, sent me this, a game that they'd made, which they suggested I try out, and I thought I'll give that a go, and I could do that in one of my streams. So what it is basically is you're given two drivers. So we're going back to F1 now. They're given two drivers, and you have to guess which of them won more races, has the most race wins, and then it just gives you a score. And if you get it wrong, you're out. So I thought we could just give this a go, and see and think about some of them. So let's go. Tony Brooks or John Watson? Okay. I think Tony Brooks has 6 wins and John Watson's got 5. It's about 5 or 6. This is a tricky one. Already tricky. For John Watson, it's either 3 or 5 in terms of his race wins, and Tony Brooks, I'm sure it's 6. So I'm thinking Tony Brooks. 6 to 5. Yeah, okay. Tony Brooks or Jacques Lafitte. Okay, Jacques Lafitte has few. He only has I think 3, maybe. I think Jacques Lafitte has fewer than that. He's a driver. He was like late 70s to early 80s, wasn't he? So yeah, I think I'll click Tony Brooks again. 6. Oh, okay, they're both on 6. Okay, so if you tie, you can pick whichever one. Right. Luigi Musso. Christ. I think, yeah, I would say fewer than 6 for Musso, because I think like Farina only has like 5 and he won a championship. Musso may actually I think Musso may only have 1. So I think, yeah, Jacques Lafitte for that one. Yeah, 1 race for Luigi Musso. Rubinho. Okay, he has 11 or 12. Does Barrichello. So he can do that. I feel like there's a limit to this, because there's been about 110 race winners. I'm assuming the highest score you can get is something like that. Okay, Nelson Piquet. Well, he has what, 26, 27? So yeah, he's got 23. Okay, I over-exaggerated a little bit for Piquet. Parnis, he has 1. Monaco 96. So yeah, that's an easy one. Oh, what have I done? Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. Oh. Okay, let's try that again. That was just me having a brain fart. Yeah. Oh, damn. Okay, well, we know that Brooks has 6. Rosberg only has, it's either 3 or 5, so it's Tony Brooks, so we'll try that one again. Gasly, well, so far only has 1, so so that's Brooks. I need to remember now not to choose the person that's lower, because I'm going to do that. Peter Collins he had 3 wins, so he's more. Coulthard's got 13, so that's a lot more, so that's an easy one. Damon Hill has 21 wins. I think 21 or 22. Does Damon? 22. Ah, Lord Maldonado. Just the one, regrettably. Villeneuve. 8 or 9, but obviously more than 1. Oh, 11. Okay, he won 4 in 96. Okay, yeah. Wolfgang von Trips only has 2 or 3, I think. So that's easy enough. Jochen Mass has 1. That was Spain 75. I think was him, or was that Brambilla? The race that got stopped early because there was a crash that killed a few spectators. Schumacher, okay, yeah, obviously. Only 1 driver has had more than Schumacher. Reutemann has 12 or 13 wins, I think. So quite high for someone who didn't win the title. So I'll put him... Yeah, 12 wins. Yeah, I'd thought so. 12 or 13. Nando... Well, at the moment, he has 32. I mean, by the way, based on how things are going this year, that could go up. So that's pretty straightforward. Patrick Tombe only has, I think, 3 wins. So that's Alonso again. Villeneuve. Okay, he has more than two. I'm just trying to think if I remember the exact number. It's 7 or 8 for Villeneuve. 6. Okay, not bad. Fittipaldi's got 14, I think was him. Didier Pironi, he only had about 3 or 4 wins. He's one who... It was crazy when I looked at it. I mean, 1982 was a ridiculous year. That he almost won the championship, even though he missed, like, the final 4 races because of his career-ending crash. Like, 82, just, like, nobody wanted to be champion that year. And it was anyone's game, and it's just crazy that he could have become champion when he was watching from his sofa at home. But he only had, I think, 3 wins for Pironi. Oh no, Bruce McLaren. I'm gonna say 3. I think it's more. It's at least 3, but yeah, 4. Okay. Dan Gurney. Okay, he only, obviously the inventor of the Gurney flap. He only has like 2, I think. He does not many. Oh, both 4. Okay, that was close. Montoya has 6 or 7, I think. It's more than 4. 7. I'm remembering these surprisingly well. Barrichello again. Okay, well, yeah, we saw before he has more, obviously. Massa. Eventually, I'll have to stop this if it goes on too long. You're getting so many right. Yeah, well, I'm assuming that there is eventually you run out. I don't know if it's designed so that it goes on infinitely, but there's only a finite number of people. Barrichello, they're tied. Massa, I was thinking Massa. It's at least 11. Yeah, okay. Nicky Lauda, okay, he has 20. I'm going to say 26 for Lauda. It's about 26, 25. Okay, not quite. Gunnar Nilsson only has 1. Didn't he? Was it no? It was Slim Borgud who died last week. Yeah, not him. Olivier Panis and Nilsson, they both have 1. Fisichella has 3. So he has Brazil 2003, Australia 2005, and Malaysia 2006. Which tier did F1 2013 go? F1 2013 is in B tier. A lot of people are objecting to that, but it's just me having issues with the driving on it and stuff. Okay, yeah, so Fisichella, that's 3 for him. Thierry Boux. This is 3 as well. I'm sure of it. 3, Thierry Boutsen. PK, yeah, easy, 23. Prost, 51. Piero Taruffi, I think, well, he probably only won 1 race. Yeah, 1 race. Sever. Okay, well, either one. Well, it has to be at least 1. I think Sever won 3 races at the most. I tried playing 2021 and the car handles like so. Yeah, I'm getting used to it myself. They're very, very twitchy at the back, which I'm not really such a fan of. But the immersion is the AI behave a bit better in 2021, so that's why it's good for me, I think. Gonzalez, he has definitely more than 1, 4 or 5 wins. Only 2, okay. Denny Holm has 10 wins, actually. Yeah, no, 8. Okay, not 10. A reasonable amount for the time. Jackie X has got fewer than that. He only has probably about half of that. Oh, okay, they're both tied. Okay, that was close. James Hunt. I'm going to say 10. But, yeah. 10. Right, okay. Charles Leclerc. How many does Leclerc have? I think it's only about 5 or 6. 2 in 2019. None in 2020. No. He didn't win any races in 21. And then Australia, 5 races. Okay, yeah, he's got Australia, Bahrain, Australia, and a thingy. Yeah, and Manicourt, that's the one. Not Manicourt. Paul Ricard, not Paul. Austria. Yeah, I forget that he didn't win any races in 20 or 21. It's mental. Yeah, only 5. God, that's depressing. And he's got what is it? 16 or 17 pole positions, or it's just something stupid. Patrick Deplier, or however you're supposed to say it. I think he only has 3. Leclerc should have about 20 wins. I mean, yeah, someone on YouTube or on Twitter was saying he's going to retire with 10 wins and like 150 pole positions or something. Yeah, only 2 for Deplier. Yeah. Rene Arnoux. I know. Well, thanks to my turbo video, I know that he has at least 2 wins. 7. Okay. Oh, obviously a lot more than 2. Jim Clark, 25. Good old Jim Clark. Mike Hawthorne only has 3 wins, I think. He has. Yeah, I think he has the record for the fewest wins for a champion, and also he only won 1 race in 1958 when he won the title, but then he finished second like 6 times, and then Sterling Moss had his disqualification at Portugal overturned, which gave him the title. Yeah, 3 wins. It's the same. It's like Phil Hill, I think, only has 3 wins as well. Ralph Schumacher, he has I think it's 7. 6. Okay, 6. My brain went 13. I was like, that's too many for Ralph. Lewis, 103. Yeah. The OG Keke, yeah. Musso only has... Well, yeah, and no one has more than Lewis. So, yeah, Musso only has 1. 42. I've got about half of them. Heintaud Frentzen has 3 wins. Let me think. 1990s... He's got... There's one in 90... Imola 97... There's one France 99 and another one. So yeah, obviously more than 1, but yeah, 3 races. I'll try to think if I can name all 3 of them. Just got 80 as your top score, right? Okay, well I'm halfway there. So Jean-Pierre Beltois, he has 1 win. I can't remember what race it is. I think it's Monaco, May 72, 73. I think, yeah. Jackie Stewart has 27 wins, which was a record at the time. Troy Ruttman, okay, well, he only won Indy 500, so that's just 1. Yeah, Indy 500 being a part of the calendar does wind me up, because it messes with the stats when it shouldn't have been on there, because it's got nothing to do with Formula 1. Monaco 1972. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, BRM. Riccardo Patrese. Okay, Patrese has at least 3. There was 8. Monaco 82, Imola 89 or 90, and then a couple in 92. It's stupid Indy 5. Yeah, it's not an F1 race. It's got nothing to do with it. Like a couple of F1 drivers tried to do Indy, and 1 or 2 Indy drivers there was no point, and it drives me nuts because it messes the stats up, and it means that there's an extra like 100 drivers that are counted as F1 drivers that have got absolutely nothing to do with F1. Patrese 6. Okay, not 3. Yeah, more than 3. 6 for Patrese. Jenson Button has 30. 13 wins, something like that, 13 or 14, fewer than he should in hindsight. 15 wins, yeah, for Jensen. Peter Revson, I think he only has 1, 2, okay. That's going to be brilliant for the early driver. Yeah, this is what I was thinking. So obviously in the 90s ranking drivers, I did 2 lists. So I had one for drivers that never started a race, and then I had one for the ones that did. From the 50s, I'm going to have drivers that race, drivers that never started a race, and then I think I'm going to have to do a separate driver for the indie drivers, because you cannot possibly compare them to F1. I think that's how it's going to have to be, and that's going to just be a nightmare. Okay, Jean Lacey, obviously Canada 95, just the one for him. Jean-Pierre Beltois is the best sounding name. There's a lot of, because there was Jean-Pierre, there was a lot of Jean-Pierre, because there was Jabouet and then Jarrier as well. Obsessed with that. Kubica, okay, well they're both on 1. Good old Kubica. 1-1. High score 50. John Watson has 3 wins. 5 wins. Actually, we do it the first time we've done it. Lee Wallard again, only 1 Indy 500. Joachim Joe Bonnier, well, at least 1. I think only 2. Yeah, just the 1 for Joe Bonnier. Bill Vuka, oh god, he won Indy in 1950, I think. So I'm just going to say, yeah. Oh, he won it twice. He won Indy twice. Okay, Bill Vukovic. Oh, the Honey Badger. How many? Ricardo's got 9 wins, isn't it? And they're all really bitching wins. Like, no win has ever come easy for him. There's what? 2014, there was Canada, Hungary, and Spa. He didn't. In 2016, he won Malaysia, I think. Yeah, 2016 Malaysia. 27. I'm sure he won a race in 2017. Oh, Azerbaijan 2017, of course. 2018, he won in China and Monaco. And Monza 21. Oh, someone said, yeah, 2018 China, Monaco. I'm sure there was 9, but if it's 8, well, it's about to tell us. Oh, it is 8, yeah. And yeah, all really hard-fought wins. Senna, 41 wins. So, yeah, no-brainer there. Jacques Lafitte only has 1 or 2. 6, okay, 6. Monaco 16, yeah, that's the one that should. Nico Rosberg has 21? 23, okay, for Nico. Michele Alboreto was only because Lewis and Max, well, it literally was because Lewis and Max crashed. Without them, it would have been one of, I mean, they would have won, yeah, if they hadn't crashed, one of those two would have won that race. Michele Alboreto's only got, what, 3 wins? 5, okay, 5, yeah. Alan Jones, it's around 10. I'm going to say 12 for the foul-mouthed Aussie. Elio De Angelis has got 3. 2. Just 1 off every time. Oh no. Pedro Rodriguez. Because there's his brother Ricardo as well, and they were both... Oh no. It could be anywhere from 1 to 3 for Pedro. Oh no, yeah, there were so many one-time winners in the 60s. Anyone got any ideas? Pedro Rodriguez, how many wins there were? Because I get the feeling I'm going to get this wrong. It could only be 1, actually. I think he got 2. Yeah, to be safe, I'll go with De Angelis. Both 2. Right, we're still good. Esteban Ocon has 1. 64, we're doing well. Graham Hill has got 14 or 15. 14, yes. George has got 1. Maurice Trintignant. Well, it's at least 1, but I think it is only 1. He's one of the early guys. 2, okay. Joe Siffert. I think it's only 1. Again, it's either 1. What's the fewest amount of races a world champion has won, both in a championship winning season and overall? It's Mike Hawthorne. So Mike Hawthorne has 3 career wins, and he won only 1 race in 1958 to win the title. Phil Hill as well. He only has 3 wins, but all of them were in 1961. In the championship, Rosberger's in 1982. He won only 1 race, and he only has 5 career wins. But yeah, he only won 1 race in 20. Nobody in 1982 won more than 2 races. It was mental. Yeah. Joe Siffert. Okay, well, it's not going to be any more than 2. I'm sure. Okay, it's 2. I saw it going off. I was like, no. Peter. Oh no, another one. Peter Gethin. Again, I don't think it's any more than 2. But I'll give the chat a few seconds if anyone has any input. For Peter Gethin. Peter Gethin there, Lewis. Very good, sir. Why didn't I never notice that before? Peter Gethin there, Lewis. Gethin has 1. Yeah, I thought so. I thought it's going to be no more than 2. Jarno Trulli has 1. Monaco 2004. John Surtees has around 10, 8 or 9, 6. Okay. The first only world champion on 2 and 4 wheels. Mika has 21. I'm pretty certain of that. Or he has 20 apparently. Bottas has. He has fewer than Mika. I know that much, but I'm just trying to think how many off the top of my head. I think it's only about 12 or 13. He's got. Let's think. 10. Okay, let's think. Okay, he's got Sochi 2017. 2018, he has. He must have won a race in 2018. 2019, he won Australia and Baku. In 2021, he won Turkey. 2020, he won Austria again. Abu Dhabi 2017. Yeah, he won no races in 2018. I thought so. Yeah, 2 in 2017. 2019, he run something. Yeah, only 1 race in 2021. He won a couple at the start in 2020. Yeah, so it's around 10. But yeah, Mika has more. 10 exactly for Bottas. Yeah. Alessandro Nannini has only 1. Thank you, Senna and Prost, for that. 4 in 2019. I thought so, yeah, because he won a couple at the start and then it just kind of tailed off. We're doing 74. Not good, not bad. Vettel, okay, 50, 53. Yeah, that's easy. Nigel Mansell has 31. Yep, nailed it. Kimi, oh no. It's fewer. It is. I'm sure it's fewer than 30 for Kimi. I think it's about 28. Could Bottas or Barrichello 21? Okay, much fewer. Could Bottas or Barrichello have been world champions without team orders? No, they weren't fast. Even they weren't fast enough. Like Bottas, Hamilton and Bottas qualifying pace. There was very very little in it. I mean, only Hamilton was only marginally faster. The problem is that Bottas's racecraft is just non-existent compared to Lewis's. He just doesn't he just can't fight through the grid, the field in the same way. Again, he can control a race from the front, but he needs to get ahead of Lewis first. But it annoys me that we saw relatively little actual battling between them because they were always using team orders. So we hardly ever got to. Usually, one of them would take the lead at the start and keep it, and we didn't often see them actually battling each other, which was a shame. But yeah, Kimi, 21. Yeah, Malaysia 2003, and then USA 2018. Yeah, that was his first win since Australia 2013 as well. Okay, 77. We're doing bad. Alberto Ascari, he only has. Oh no, he's got more than you'd think. He's got more than 10. Alberto Ascari. 13, yeah, he just shat all over everyone in 52 and 53. Fangio has got 25 wins. 24 wins. Bottas never actually had the chance because of Hamilton and Mercedes. Barrichello went. Yeah, Barrichello, he started poorly in 2009, but he won a couple of races near the end. But by that point, there's the problem is that Vettel, Barrichello, and Hamilton all had a resurgence in the second half of the year. But Button had gotten such a lead at first, they just couldn't keep up. But yeah, Bottas, the simple truth with Bottas is he just wasn't good enough. He's just not as good a driver as Lewis is, even without team orders. Anyway, Fangio 24. Kimi was also there, also insane in the second half. It was Ferrari and McLaren, they both had a big step up because he won in Spa, Kimi did. But again, I mean, but both teams, but they were so desperately bad, Ferrari and McLaren, in the first half of the season. They just were too far behind. Lorenzo Bandini, I think he only has one win. Bandini, yeah. Jody Scheckter has 10 wins. I know that one. Exactly. I'd love to meet him. He lives not far from me on his farm. Sterling Moss has 16 wins. He has the most of any non-champion. Gerhard Berger, it's not 16. I know that much, but it's about 5 or 6. A couple with Ferrari, a couple with McLaren, one with Benetton. It's 10. Okay, a lot more than 5 or 6. Heikki has 1, so that's nice and easy. How long does this go on? I think there is a limit because I've only seen each champion once. Jack Brabham has more than 10. 14 wins for good old Jack Brabham. Mark Webber. It's fewer than you'd think with Webber. I think it's only about 7 or 8. Stop at 100 if you get there. Yeah, probably will. I don't know. I don't know if this goes on much further than 100. I think it does stop because I've only seen each person once. Okay, I know it's fewer than 14, but I'm trying to think. 9 for Webber. Okay, so I know he won Germany 2009, Monaco 2010, Silverstone 2010. He didn't. I don't think he won any races in 2011. Oh no, Brazil 2011. Monaco 2012. Nothing in 2013. There are more. Spain 2010. Yeah, there are more I'm thinking of, but yeah, obviously Jack Brabham has more. 9 wins, yeah. Max. Well, yesterday or 2 days ago, that was his 36th win. Silverstone 2012. Of course, I should know. I was there. I saw that. And Brazil. Yeah. Oh, it's 35. I thought it was 36. I mean, maybe this hasn't been updated. Vittorio Brambilla has only 1 win, so yeah, that's easy. I mean, Max, okay, let's think. I think this year he is absolutely going to overtake Senna's record, 41. He's only 6 races away. That's very easy. Theoretically, he could overtake Prost and Vettel, but he'd have to win. He'd have to win another 17 or 18, so I don't think so. Um, Brambino Baghetti. Oh, Baghetti. He's the one that won on his debut. It hasn't. It hasn't. It said Abu Dhabi 22. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so he hasn't updated it. That's why. Okay, yeah. Baghetti. He's the guy that won on his debut. That was cool. Mario Andretti. Okay, yep. Again, about somewhere between 10 and 15. What a legend. I mean, such a. I can't think of a more eclectic driver. He's just done so much, and he's done so well in so many different things, and he's still like, he's in his 80s and he drove a Formula 1 car last year. Like, the guy's a machine. Do you think Max will break Lewis's records? He has a very, very long way to go if he's going to break the win records. I don't think it would be good for the sport to have basically, in the space of 20 years or less, a fourth period of outright dominance by somebody. It's not good for the sport. 7 championships again. Well, he's still got 5 to go. I think he could get close. He could beat Vettel's records, absolutely. I don't think he could beat Schumacher or Hamilton. He already has better stats than him in Max age. I mean, Max. This is the thing. Max started young, but then he was racing, like, the first couple of seasons wasn't able to win much because Mercedes were dominating. So he started a bit later, but then obviously Lewis started strong, and then the Vettel era, and then it blew up after that. But yeah, we'll see with Max. But he's going to be. I think Vettel is a target he could definitely beat. Yeah, record due to more races. Yeah, maybe that might do it, certainly. But yeah, and obviously, so back to this. Andretti has more than Jabouet, who has 2. Eddie Irvine has 4 wins. So 19, all in 1999. He won Austria. He won Germany. He won Malaysia. And he won another one. But yeah, so yeah, something else. He would be champion with using the modern point system in and Spa as well. Yeah, if we use the modern point system in 1999, he would have won the championship by 16 points. Just imagine that, Eddie Irvine, a champion. Johnny Parsons, he won the Indy 500 in 1950, but that's only one. Jose Carlos. How do you say? Are there any Brazilians? Is it Pace, or is it like Pache or Passe? How do you say it? Because I can't. I feel like it's not just Pace. I think, again, well, it's at least one, but I think it is only one win for him. Pache, yeah, I was thinking that. Checo has 3 wins, 3 or 4, isn't it? So obviously Sakir 2020, Monaco last year, Baku 2021. There was another, Singapore. 4? Yeah, 4. Ronnie, oh no. I think it's more. Ronnie Peterson. Because he was runner-up in 72, and then died in... Yeah, I'm thinking more than 4 from Ronnie Peterson. I think it's... My mind is going 8, and maybe I'm just thinking 1978, because that's when he died. 10. Yeah, I thought so. I knew it was a reasonable amount. 96. Okay, Carlos has 1. But they need to update these images. Very low res, and from his Renault years. You can find a... Yeah. 96. Okay. Johnny Herbert's got 3. So that's easy. I think we're near the... Because it's about... I'm going to go till... I think it's 110, 111, so we're almost there. Clay Regazzoni. Carlos has the worst first win of any driver. Yeah. Is it... Okay, Clay, I think it's about 3. 5. Yeah, okay. Oh, we're so close. Phil Hill. Well, as I said before, he has 3. They've taken that picture. I watched that. That's from an interview he did about Phil Hill. He died in 2008, and then he did an interview which I watched actually a few days ago. It was like an hour long. I think about 2003. That's what they've taken that screenshot from, rather than when he was driving. Yeah. 113 race winners. We're nearly there. We can do it because we reached 100. Rint has more than 3, definitely, but it's not. It's 5. Actually, no, I remember now it's 5 because from the Champions final race videos, he won 1 in 1969 and then he won 4 consecutive races in 1970. Or it's 6. Okay. No, yeah, because he won Monaco and then he won 4 races on the trot after that. Farina has... It's either 5 or 6. So to be safe, I'm going to go with Rint. But yeah, I'm pretty certain it's 5 with Farina. Formula 1's first champion. Or is it 7? Please don't be 7. Good. Oh, we're so close. Okay. I don't know what to do with that. Are we missing any high ranking? Oh, I don't know. What is that? I don't know if that means that's the end, or if I click Farina, what happens? I think maybe that is the end, but there's only 102, so they're missing some. And even including the Indy 500. But yeah, okay, well, we'll take that. We got to the end. So yeah. Everyone over 10 is gone. Yeah, I think it's ended. So if I click again, or okay, well, I'll take that. So yeah, that was good fun testing the old noggin a bit. We got there, a little bit of help along the way. So yeah, okay, we've been going for nearly 3 hours now, so I think I'll go now because obviously we did the tier list and just have another. I'll save this and publish it, post it on Twitter again and that. And yeah, so yeah, I'll do some more. I'll do more, probably more F1 related tier list streams, and I might attempt to do a gaming one, doing like maybe F1 Manager or something. If I think I can do that or not. But yeah. Yeah, I'll sign off now and thank you for tuning in, and yeah, I'll see you all next time.